Baylor wins the tip, and Meyer launches and buries one to start it, and the Bears on top.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Empty backfield, pressure, Heineke is decked, down he goes, the ball is loose, it's picked up by Dallas and Armstrong, he's got a convoy, he's going to walk in for the touchdown!
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Reitman to punt. Robinson back deep, and it's a fake. And it's Fago. Diego Fago for the first down.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Here he goes. Jamba Joshua. The exclamation point.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, 101 Elm Avenue. About a mile away from McLean Stadium and about 3 miles away from the arena that hosts the number one men's basketball team in the country and the defending national champions in Baylor, who yesterday absolutely just suffocated a really good basketball team in Villanova. We'll hear from their assistant head coach in Jerome Tang today at 3:20, plus Kendall Karr, who breaks down college basketball, will join us a little bit later on. A couple of other things over the weekend. One of the great names in broadcast and journalism, Dave Campbell, passed away Friday evening, and we're going to hear from John McClain, who normally joins us on Tuesdays today, who's one of the closest people to Dave Campbell, who passed away at the age of 96. His name is on the cover of the high school football magazine that's published every summer that is a must-read, must-get, whether you're a player, a fan, a coach, or just anybody. And John will join us today at 4 o'clock. And Kalani Sitake, the head coach at Brigham Young, we mentioned him. He has the new contract, will join us today at 3:40, among other things as well. Paul Catalina to my left, Craig Smoak to my right. And Baylor men's basketball. We've been college football, and we will do a lot of college football, including today. But I was at the game, an incredible atmosphere. And it should be an incredible atmosphere with a defending national title plus a number 2, number 6 ranking. And today Baylor validated as the number 1 team, at least for now. They wrapped their arms around Villanova. It was so impressive. Kept them to under 40 points. And guys, we saw them last year with that defense that was smothering, led by Davion Mitchell. But this team here defensively is still at an elite level.
That was a clinic that they put on yesterday. And, you know, I know they didn't score a lot of points, but they weren't going to because Villanova's a superb defensive team. But they didn't go through any kind of really long stretch of clanging out shots. Villanova had no hope from beginning to end to win that game. They only got it down to single digits, I believe, in the game. You know, once it got to double digits in the league, I think they got it down to single digits like 6 times. And the rest of the time, it just stayed a double-digit game. Matthew Meyer, we talk all the time about his offensive prowess and what his offensive ceiling is he's a guy who's a defensive force now. I mean, running down the floor and blocking shots without the shooter even know it's coming. James Akinjo, while he probably needs to come under control a little bit, he is certainly an offensive fire starter, and he's really getting a lot better on defense. And they just seem to get contributions all over the place, like they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing that they could be better than they were last year. I mean, that's certainly a possibility, and that's just crazy to think about because you hear so many teams losing 3-4 guys to the NBA or just losing them in graduation, and especially off a national title team. And, you're expecting a Duke or a Kansas or a Kentucky or any of those number of teams to be able to just reload, but it's not known for Baylor to do that. And Scott Drew's now gotten to a point in recruiting where for the longest time he couldn't find a high school point guard. Now he's basically taking his pick of the litter and finding the exact type of guys that he wants everywhere that he wants. And you see the athleticism and just the chemistry that's still carried over as well, I think, has been probably the most impressive thing, quite frankly, is that they could take so many new guys, even if they have been on campus for a little while, and turn them into as tight-knit of a team as this appears to be. Last year, they were super tight-knit, and, a lot of it had to do with the COVID year and all that, but it's like we had a guest mention on Friday. I mean, they could very well be back-to-back champs right now. They're the reigning, but because of that COVID year, they could have very well won that year. And, now they're number one this year, and you just hope that everything stays the course and they're able to milk out as much as they possibly can out of this run because it's a special run that they're on right now. There's no doubt.
No question about it. We'll have Jerome Tang, assistant head coach of Baylor, today at 3:20. Then Kalani Sitake will join us today at, as I mentioned, 3:40. So we'll break all of that down and much more. And those of you on the chat room, thank you for being there already off the top. I saw Alan Bishop and Scotty B both saying hi. And then also Baylor introduced their new soccer coach earlier this afternoon. And of course, a new era for Baylor soccer along the way. Scotty B also brought up the Cowboys beating Washington, and it ended up being more of a struggle than it should have been, 27-20. And we'll have today David Hellman joining us at 5 o'clock for that. Now, let's see. Oh, the Heisman Trophy was released. Bryce Young won it. Not a surprise. Dominant as far as the voting. Not surprised at all. I had mentioned that I would release my top three, and I did Saturday evening. I had Bryce Young 1, Aiden Hutchinson 2, and then I had Will Anderson Jr., the linebacker from Alabama, at number 3.
Didn't watch a single second. Just saw on Twitter who won and didn't care one iota. I mean, congrats to Bryce Young. Congrats to the Alabama fans out there. It is amazing their lack of Heisman history and now what Saban's done in a very short amount of time, especially the last few years, winning as many as he has, given that Alabama, with all their titles, really didn't have a whole lot of Heisman winners in comparison to maybe some other schools. But now they do because they've been on a crazy run here as of late. So just everything has grown under Nick Saban. But deserving. Be honest with you, I don't care about the award anymore. I just have stopped caring. I think this is the year that's finally like my last straw as far as just being totally just whatever about it. And I don't know why. I mean, I've kind of felt that way the last few years, but this year in particular just did not feel special in any way to me at all, in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know if that's just me or what, but I am very happy that Bryce Young's getting the recognition that he deserves. Great player, fun to watch, and we'll watch him for a long time. But I mean, as far as the award goes, I just don't care about it anymore. I think the one thing that does excite me is that two of the candidates are going to be back next year, and we get to watch them again. In Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Now, Kenny Pickett and Aiden Hutchinson will be long gone. I mean, they'll be cashing checks in the NFL and hopefully doing very well there. But I'm excited to see Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud come back and play next year. That to me is always interesting. Ty Detmer came back and played the year after his Heisman Trophy. Jameis Winston did. I'm trying to think of other people that did. I think
Archie Griffin won 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean, it doesn't happen that often.
No.
Tim Tebow did. So there are times when they do come back of the Heisman Trophy and win. So and play. So I'm always interested to see that the follow up year.
All right. So we touched on Baylor basketball beating Villanova and shutting them down defensively, and Villanova's defense played well too. And now number 1 in the country. UConn is the lowest they've been in women's basketball since 2007. at number 7. That's just kind of an historical note right there. Mentioned Dave Campbell passing away. 2 different guests that will check in on Dave Campbell, whose name was on a magazine that I have every one I think he's ever published that I can remember since I moved to Texas after being in Japan, and then I collected some in the 70s, in the early 70s when I was not living in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought him back around because that's obviously a huge loss here in Waco in particular, is Dave Campbell, a Waco native and legend, and, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame is here because of him. After, just floundering in Grand Prairie, it's now in Waco, and it's been able to do pretty well for itself, and it's kind of on this little row of, mini attractions now that started to build up along with the Texas Ranger Museum and, just downtown and all of that. But what a legend. I mean, he single-handedly in many ways changed high school football in the United States of America. I mean, Friday Night Lights and all that, that's not all happening without Dave Campbell. The spotlight shown on the state of Texas when it comes to Friday Night Lights and high school football and the pageantry and all of that, a lot of that was relayed via Dave Campbell. A lot of these guys, these Vince Youngs and these players that we heard about before anybody else, that was because of Dave Campbell, not Rivals, not 247 or any other new website that pops up.
Or Smokey.com.
Or anybody, yeah. I mean, it's Dave Campbell. And, then with the advent of the internet, it was a little bit farther behind, in terms of recruiting and stuff. You can't really break news in the magazine, but it was a thrill, I know, for people to see their names in that magazine. It was like a lifetime accomplishment for football players in the state to see their name in Dave Campbell's magazine. And, I could go on and on just about that publication. But, while some things have kind of weakened over time, the Heisman Trophy, in my opinion, being one of those, I think the Texas football brand across the board, certainly not the one in Austin, just in general, is as strong as it's ever been. And he played a large role in that.
And there have been people who have tried to make a run at that magazine, and it tried, and good people. And it just is an incredible, and what they've done when they bought him out back in the 80s as well.
And he was, it's hard for me to say was, still. He was a gentleman among, just the one of the most kind and fun guys to talk to, and you could just sit down and ask Dave, like, hey, Dave, tell me about A&M versus Texas 1949. And he could tell you, like, in the third quarter there was a fumble because it was kind of muddy the night before and all these different details. I remember one time he was a Red Sox fan like me, and so after they won the World Series, I saw him at a luncheon. I said, how about our Red Sox, Mr. Dave? And he sat down and talked to me, and then he said he told me the whole game nearly pitch for pitch that he listened to on the radio with Jimmy Fox.
Wow.
And I was just taken by, I couldn't believe this guy. He had 87 or 8 at the time, just the memory he had. And gonna miss seeing Mr. Dave was what our business should be about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so many have lost to that as well.
He would have been great to have him around for forever, but I know he's dealing with a lot of health issues, especially the last few years. And it's probably best. I don't think that Dave Campbell is really built for let's make a video over where we're decommitting from. This day and age, it's losing his mind, and it's losing its mind as far as, what's getting attention and all that. And that's certainly not what he started off covering, and I can't imagine he loved covering, that side of it too much. But, that's a special era of covering football that's certainly not going to be around any longer, and that's unfortunate. Now it's all about just, me.
Well, and speaking of me, there's a couple of notes. By the way, not this part, me. Jalen Petrie, first-team AP All-American. Connor Galvin, honorable mention All-American. Bryce Young was named first team as well, along with the others that we mentioned in the Heisman Trophy. But it was nice to see Jalen Petrie, consensus All-American, the safety from Baylor, also the Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12. Now, a couple of other notes. In college football, Quinn Ewers, quarterback at South Lake Carroll, left early, got the NI deal with Ohio State, transferred out. He's now headed to Texas. Jacob Zeno headed to UAB. Bo Nix is in the transfer portal, the Auburn quarterback. TJ Finley, probably their future. Kevin Slovis, he's in the transfer portal from USC. And Zach Calzada, who came in and played when Haynes King went out for A&M, he now is in the transfer portal as well.
Will not play in the Gator Bowl. And neither will Haynes King.
Yeah, so
they'll run the Wildcat.
Yeah, I mean, we probably could take that story by story because I got a comment on every single one of them. I don't know if you want to do that, just group talk. Okay, so you want to roll through these?
Roll through them though, yeah, because we got to hit a break for Jerome.
Okay, so Quinn Ewers, I mean, just basically wasted a year doing the same thing he was intending to do pretty much from the beginning when he was committed to Texas. Made whatever he made in Columbus through the year that he didn't play and watched C.J. Stroud become a superstar. Really great player, naturally talented, has all the intangibles, all that. That's a big deal for Texas, but it's not like I'm reacting as though they probably are, because, again, it's kind of like it just is what was supposed to happen to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, that's where he was going, and then he reclassified and committed to Ohio State, so it's all just happening the way it was originally intended to. But, that's a really big deal for Sark, and people are treating this kid like he's the freaking, the second coming of Tom Brady, basically, the way people talk about this kid. Like, he's no flaws, like nothing. So I'm interested to see what he actually does. Jacob Zeno to UAB. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really followed Jacob a whole lot since he's been gone. I don't know how active he's even been on social media. I haven't paid attention, but UAB is a good program. I wouldn't have pegged that for him, but hey, good for him. It's an interesting spot. They'll win some games. Charlie Brewer to Liberty.
I haven't confirmed that.
Okay, you haven't confirmed that?
I know that's out there. I saw somebody mention his Twitter handle, and I don't think he's on Twitter anymore. At least I don't think so. But that's okay. That's a possibility of that.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit of an athleticism step down from this year, I'd say. But I guess we'll TBD on Charlie Brewer. Bo Nix, I feel like he's probably played his best football at this point, and it wasn't this year, especially towards the end. So that's interesting. And then Keenan Slovis, that's not really a surprise with Graham Harrell leaving USC or whatever he ends up doing. I know that they had a tight relationship, and obviously Lincoln Riley's got his whole barrage of guys that'll be coming in. So that's not a shocker. But Calzada, what the hell? Why, dude? And before the bowl game, what even is that? I don't understand that one. What's all these other ones, they already made their intentions known, or you can kind of see the writing on the wall maybe. But Zach Calzada, Paul, do you have an explanation for this?
No, it caught me completely by surprise. And I don't know, look, he is really talented. He wasn't very good at times this year. In those games would be the 4 games that A&M lost, but they were still close in all of them or reasonable. So this is a guy who with development could be really good. I'm just maybe he just doesn't see a future there at A&M. It really shocked me. And not playing in the Gator Bowl, and they're going to have a walk-on playing a quarterback in the Sugar Bowl or the Gator Bowl.
They're going to snap it to Spiller, and they're going to snap it to A-Chain.
I saw a tweet today, and I was wondering, because Zach Calzada, he came out with a decommitment video, or a transfer video, I guess I should say, right? Mm-hmm. And that's become the new norm. And I saw some probably old head like myself that was commenting, it's what? We're doing decommitment, or we're doing transfer videos now. And I don't know if y'all saw, I think it was 247 or somebody. They love this type of stuff, obviously. The more guys move around, the more information for their websites. And, there's more stuff for us to talk about as well. But, they're doing top transfer portal rankings now. And, man, that's wild. I just think that's taking a couple steps too far, but that's very interesting timing by Calzada.
Okay, it's become so much drama, and if you get somebody, you love it. If you lose somebody, okay. Here's an example: Kobe McKenzie, linebacker from Cooper High School in Lubbock. He was committed to Oklahoma. The Lincoln Riley story broke, right? He then, I believe, committed to Texas. And then he's committed back to Oklahoma. And in fact, just a minute ago, only because somebody sent this to me, he also said, I'm not the only one coming back, as Oklahoma tries to regroup after the loss of Lincoln Riley with what they have. And so who knows? One other note, high school football. Franklin, Lorena, and China Spring are all in the state championship game this week, and so is College Station High School. All of them are in the state championship. And quarterback Major Bowden from China Spring, who plays Gilmer, and their quarterback is Brandon Tennyson, are 2 of the 10 finalists for Mr. Texas football. And so is Rashad Sanford, the running back out of Harker Heights out of Killeen. Klubnik, Reuben Owens, 2 great players, the Unicorn among the list as well. We got a break, come back with Jerome Tang, assistant head coach at Baylor men's basketball, then BYU's Kalani Sitake. This, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Karr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Got a lot of great deals going on right now at Richard Karr. And, of course, there's been a shortage of vehicles because of the microchip issues that have been going on. But that's slowly but surely started to get a little bit better. And Richard Karr wants you to get on their priority list right now so that you can be the first to get in a new car or truck. That's right. They've got the priority list. So if you are in the market for a new vehicle, you can sign up on that, and you will be amongst the first to get the new car or truck that you ordered when they arrive. So cars and trucks are coming, and deliveries are happening each day, new cars and trucks each week. So get on that inbound vehicle list. And if you are looking for various options, well, pickup-wise, check out the Sierra from Richard Karr. It has it all, power for a work site or the luxury interior drive for a night on the town. Richard Karr also has an abundance of SUVs, more than any other dealer in the area. 11 SUV models to choose from with dozens of trim options. They are your one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs, whether it's a fun and nimble Buick Encore, the sophistication and luxury of a Cadillac Escalade. Richard Karr has the SUV you need in all sizes and price ranges. And if you're looking to get into a car today at an affordable price, well, they're also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks, and their aggressive lenders are ready to get you in a car today. 100% credit approval is always the goal. Richard Karr Motors. Want a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. They're owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears, and look forward to seeing you at the dealership or in the stands.
All right, Craig Smoak with Richard Karr Motors. Again, one of our great sponsors of Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. We're now joined by Baylor assistant head basketball coach Jerome Tang after the win against Villanova and number one ranking right now in the Associated Press and the coaches poll as well. You guys yesterday, Jerome, I'm there. And first of all, let's discuss the atmosphere. You should have that crowd. You're the defending national champions. You're playing number 6. You're number 2. Can you kind of describe just the emotions along with Dickie V being there and all of that?
Very, very cool. First of all, thank you guys for having me on. I love listening to you and do a great job. Appreciate all you do for Baylor Athletics. And it was a great crowd. Baylor Nation showed up, and the student section was unbelievable. And having Dick Vitale be able to be there, knowing that he's going through chemotherapy and fighting cancer. And I mean, it was just a really cool all around environment. And we were excited for our guys to have an opportunity to play in front of that kind of audience.
Coach, one of the things I wondered about the team was who would be the guy who steps into the leadership roles, or when the chips are down, or when you need a play. I don't really think it's a guy. I think you kind of have what you had again last year, where you've got several guys stepping up and just doing what they need to do. How do you explain that being such an easy transition from losing such leaders like you did to guys kind of naturally stepping up into roles?
Well, I feel like, first of all, the guys that were here last year did a great job of mentoring and really pouring into the guys who returned. And Davion and Jared Maceo, those guys, they spent a lot of time. Mark Vidal spent a lot of time with these guys and set a great example. And now you have Flo and, Jonathan and Adam and guys, LJ Cryer, who, probably earned a doctorate degree last year, having to guard and play against those 3 guards every day and work with them. And so, they're all very much advanced in understanding what it takes to win. And, Coach Drew says all the time that, we need everyone on the rope pulling the same direction. And the guys have really bought into that it's not one guy that's going to pull and win a game or take you over the top. It's everybody doing their job, pulling together. That's going to allow us to get to where we want to get to.
Because you had so many veterans last year, there's a lot of patience for other guys in the roster, so especially your younger guys. Now that you're kind of getting to unleash the young pups, what's it like to see them go out there and have an opportunity to do their thing?
Man, it's exciting. It's always exciting when, the things that you see someone doing when the lights aren't on and nobody's around. And then on a stage like yesterday or what we've had in the Bahamas, you see them get to shine, for all the world, all of America to see him play. And that's always very rewarding as a coach to see them have success, because you tell young men, if they work hard work always pays off. And it's nice to see it pay off. And it's nice to see them credit their teammates for helping them. We got a bunch of guys that understand that, they're not doing this by themselves, and it's not just them, that it's a team effort, and everyone's important, everyone matters.
Jerome, one of the things that is also impressive, you have two freshmen, and I know Langston Love is injured and out for the year, who would have been a part of this as well. But with what Kendall is doing, and also with Jeremy Sohan, they're doing you hear about these blue chips of these guys who could play at any time. They're doing the dirty work too, aren't they? How impressed have you been with that?
Well, we watched them as high school guys play, and one of the things that attracted us to them and them to us was that they valued playing both ends of the floor, and they understood what it was to be a part of a really good team. Langston was at Mount Bird, and he came off the bench as a junior when he was, all-state as a sophomore in the state of Texas, and he came off the bench as a junior and waited his turn as a senior. And Kendall Brown, played a role at Sunrise Christian, and Jeremy, was at La Lumiere, and then went, because of COVID, had to go back overseas, but played on a team that, where it was a team thing and it wasn't an individual thing. So all those guys understand what it is to be a part of a winning program and to play a role and to help the team have success. And they understand that when the team wins, everyone wins. So we recruited them, and they came to Baylor and chose Baylor because we all valued the same thing.
Coach, when did Matthew Meyer become a defensive force?
Those are like words you think you ever would say. Matthew, I think it was his freshman year, or his sophomore year, he took a charge. And I remember Makai Mason sending me a text and saying, "Man, y'all are the greatest coaches in the world because y'all got Matthew Meyer to take a charge." But Matthew loves his teammates. I mean, I think he doesn't like he gets, people recognize things that he does, but one of the things people y'all don't get to see is how much he loves his teammates. And off the court, what a great teammate that he is. And so in the midst of the game, when something has to be done, he's not doing it because it's going to shine light on him. He's doing it because he loves his teammates. And so all those hustle plays that he's making, it's his way of showing his teammates and his staff, and just everybody, how much he loves them. And I mean, he's just as much as he makes me want to pull my hair out sometimes for what he does when he has the ball in his hands. My heart just bursts with pride as much for the stuff that he does, that you just say, man, look at him show his love and his joy for playing with his teammates, diving on the floor, chase down blocks, just all the different things. I mean, I think he had like 2 block shots. He led us in block shots last game. And he's going to let me know that, too. So that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, and how much of that is him also, and he had one that blew up the top off the Farrell Center in a key moment as well. How much does that also, the maturity of that not just scoring points for anybody, not just Matthew, who we know there's not a shot he doesn't think he can make or like, but at the same time that he doesn't let his offense affect his defense or vice versa, and kind of bought into more than just points?
It's great maturity, and that's what you want to see. I mean, nobody's arrived, right? And so everyone's got to continue to get better, and all of us, coaches, players, everyone. And Matthew, seeing the maturity in his game, seeing the maturity from day to day, guys just continuing to get better. LJ Cryer was known as a shooter coming out of high school, and watching him get in the paint and make plays for people, and growing in his defensive abilities, and I mean just every one of those guys, you can point out things and you see growth in their game, and because they just want to keep getting better. And we talk about getting 1% better every day, and I think this is some of what you're seeing now is the result of that. And as we continue to go on, you'll see it get even better.
Coach, the culture of joy, I mean, that has really spread like wildfire, especially the last year or so, and just the mentality, the style, the way you guys conduct your business and how you conduct your business. It's kind of scary that doing things and being happy and being positive is like such a revelation to people sometimes, but it feels like that is not only obviously become y'all's brand, but it's spread throughout the rest of campus, I feel like, in ways, and throughout the fan base as well, and just a different type of an appreciation for the way things are done. Do you kind of feel that? And what's it like on campus right now when you see, Dave Aranda and the football team winning a Big 12 title, or Nikki Collin and the women doing their thing? I mean, there's a lot of good going on right now, and you guys are a big, massive part of that. Just what's it kind of like on campus, and what's it like to see people appreciate the culture of joy?
But I think we have to definitely give credit to Mac Rhodes. And, I mean, he came in and established 4 pillars, and one of the 4 pillars was spiritual growth. And that was extremely important to him. And he wanted to see our student athletes grow in their walk. He wanted to have coaches around the student athletes that cared about their spiritual growth. And Mac has made that important, and therefore all the head coaches have embraced it. And then every sport that you've named, I mean, I think we would say each one of those men and women are unbelievable human beings, and they exemplify what Baylor University has always meant to be about. And that, building men and women who are going to impact their city for the kingdom and impact this country for the kingdom. And these head coaches, I mean, they're leading the way, and Coach Drew's leading the way with it. And so, I mean, I love the word joy. I love the fact that it's being spread across campus. But I love when I hear the announcers on TV say it, and people, when they talk about us playing with joy, you can't have joy without Jesus. And so it's Jesus first, and others second, and yourself last. And, we're going to we're getting our guys to really embrace that. And they're not angels now. I mean, they're young men and young women who are living life and making mistakes, but they understand that they're going to be loved and they're going to be nurtured through those things. And there's a way. Especially with social media and everyone having a camera and just like you can't talk and treat people any way you want to anymore, because it's going to get exposed. Okay. And so, people can put on a front in public, but, in private, if they're a different way, it's going to eventually get exposed. And I'm just telling you that, having been around Nikki and having been around Dave Aranda, and especially, spend the last almost 20 years with Coach Drew, they're the real deal, man. In private, they're going to love you and with the love of the Lord, and they're going to pour it into their kids, and you're seeing the results on the field, and win or lose, you're seeing young men and women handle what they do with class and dignity, and it's making Baylor Nation. I hope it's making Baylor Nation proud.
How would you grade Nikki Collin as a member of the Bear Pit then? She questioned her own rhythm, and so watching the video carefully, I see that, and then she was on another show where she said she would play Scott in a game of horse. Ooh. Like she wouldn't have any problem with that, and so I'd like to see like as quiet as it's kept. Coach has a sweet jump shot. I know y'all haven't seen it, but early on we would play some 3-on-3s as a staff, and he had a nice heavy pull up and a right to left crossover pull up, and the shot is nice. So, I don't know. I'd like to see that. I think it'd be a great fundraiser to have Scott and Nikki, but it was awesome to see her in there and just appreciate her support. And I mean, it's just it really is a joy to be around our facility with the new staff and everything that's going on. It's been great.
Did you guys accidentally mention that there was maybe a box of champagne outside of the Villanova locker room or something like that? I bring that up. I bring that up because, again, the season begins. You do lose 4 once-in-a-lifetime type players as far as what they meant to the program. And yet, you kind of were just stuck somewhere in the top 10. And everybody else, it seemed like, and all these teams are good. And you still have a long way to go. But was there any at all, like, scowl or motivation from your team at all when the rankings kept coming out each week?
No, I don't. Well, I can't read each guy's mind, but we never really made a big deal about the rankings and where it's at. It was, okay, let's just keep getting better. And the goal was to do the things every day in a way that would allow us to win the last game. And so were our guys a little more motivated because, Villanova was a ranked team coming in, and, Colin Gillespie was considered an All-American guard, and, and we had a week to prep for him, and they heard about him scoring 27 points on us when he played 2 years ago, and, how good he was. Yeah, I'm sure they were a little more motivated, but it wasn't because we felt like we should be ranked higher or anything like that. I mean, it's an honor to be ranked where we're at. And I mean, Baylor Nation and the Baylor family should take great pride in it. And, it is pretty cool as a coach. I can't tell you that it's not. I mean, it is really, really cool. And I sit around in awe sometimes thinking of where we started and where we are right now. But I don't know that our guys are motivated by the rankings.
Yeah. In yesterday's crowd, the attendance, the atmosphere, the game, having Dick Vitale there, wasn't that kind of a culmination, Jerome, of what started back in 2003, the dream? I know winning the national titles at the very, very top, always will be, but that atmosphere, that crowd, that basketball knowledge, isn't that kind of what you've been building towards?
Well, yeah, we had some pretty good recruits on campus for that game yesterday. And, you tried to tell guys this is the environment and the atmosphere that you want to play in, the type of basketball, energy and games that you go to college for. And so you don't have to leave and go far away in order to get it. And we told the guys that, and I just feel like, but what I would like to see, and this is not I appreciate our fans, right? Love them. They were unbelievable. But, I don't want them just to show up when we play Villanova. I want them to show up every time Baylor plays, and be there for Baylor. When we go on the road, we get sellouts on the road because people show up to see Baylor. So when we're at home, our fans should show up to see Baylor because don't take it for granted that this thing will last forever. I guess that's my message.
Thank you, Jerome. Congratulations where you are, where you've been, and also defending the national title throughout the year. Hope to have you on again like we did last year quite a bit. Thanks for your time today.
Man, appreciate you guys. Keep up the great work.
You too. You too. That's Jerome Tang, assistant head basketball coach. Baylor last night, earlier today, ranked number 1 in the country, as they should be. Who they've beaten already, what they did in the Bahamas as well, the battle for Atlantis, and now with the win against Villanova. They have a game with Oregon on the road. They have games before that, but they have a game coming up in December with a road game against Oregon, who's been kind of back and forth a little bit this year. When we come back, we had Kalani Sitake on. Remember the week that they played Baylor in Waco. And then Friday, a big story about how he's been given an extension through 2027, a new contract for Brigham Young football, who will be a part of the Big 12 in the summer of 2023. Kalani Sitake and the contract and BYU football next on Sikkim 365 Radio. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be and maybe you used to be. And when I mean used to be, as you grow older, your testosterone levels can change. And they change by getting lower. And by getting lower, that can affect your sleep habits, your energy, and also your sex drive. It happens. Nothing you can do about it. It's part of father time, and only 1 out of every 3 men deal with it, but maybe you're one of those 3 men. And if you are, contact Dr. Kent Petty and his staff. Go to pettycliniclowt.com on the website. Top left-hand corner, there's an email and a phone number, and tell them I sent you. He will then get your blood results or set you up with an appointment, get your lab results, your blood work, and check your testosterone levels. He'll look at everything else as well. And if your testosterone levels are too low, he can put you in a program to help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, and you used to be, and you need to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
The all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock. The beautiful, luxurious, elegant third-row seating carries the prestigious Jeep heritage. First responders get an extra $500. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $2,400 or 0% for 72 months. It's the Big Finish sales event now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the Bet US hotline, 254-339-1122.
Well, we're best friends with Kalani Sitake, the head football coach at Brigham Young, and the Big 12 future as well. And Coach Sitake from BYU joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio. Coach, thank you very, very much. What signal and what message did you send, and what did Brigham Young send with the news of your new contract going forward?
Well, I think the major thing is that there's an investment and a commitment from our administration and our school to get us to a level where we can be, comparable to the other P5 schools, and then specifically to the schools in the Big 12. And so that's the key for me. The contract thing was never about myself. It was about the people that I care about in our program, and a lot of those guys are the workers, are the ones that are behind the scenes that no one hears about. And I think it's important for me as a leader and as a head coach to think and speak for them, and then the people that we actually do this for, and that's for the young men that are in the locker room. I think it's important that they get all the resources to give them success, and I'm really excited that there's that commitment, and I'm excited to be, the head coach here a little bit longer. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Just looking forward to developing our players and getting us ready for that 2022 season, which will then lead to our entrance to the Big 12.
Well, you've been getting awful close to that relevance without being a P5. How much has it changed in the few months, at least as far as attention from recruits and different things, that you are going to be a P5 school, and you can tell these kids that you're going to be signing in 2 days, hey, by the time you're a junior, you're going to be playing for conference titles and maybe even a college football playoff?
Well, I think the awareness of the partners that we'll have in the Big 12, and then cheering for them, it's a lot of fun, where you're hoping for their success because they're business partners, which means that we're partners in the Big 12, and so we want to see them do well. We want to see their fans happy in every game except for when we play against them. So we're really looking forward to this partnership and the union that we can be part of this group and with the Big 12, and really honored to be invited there, and looking at all the great coaches and programs and the leadership that's in all those universities. It's an honor for us to be a part of it.
Coach, you play one of the earlier bowl games. You have it, 5 days from now, you will be playing UAB. For your team and kind of how you view the postseason run, the bowl practices, what do you look to get accomplished, and how much are you able to get done in these few weeks of bowl practices?
Well, for me, it's development, and just like spring football, where you are allowed a certain amount of practices to develop your young players. I think that we obviously want to be polished up and make sure that we don't go rusty with the time off with the starters. But I think for the most part, the development of the younger players, the up and coming players, and to provide depth that's needed for our program, it's important that we take advantage of these practices and focus on the fundamental part of the game, the technique, and then having that followed up by a game and the excitement behind the game, and then gifts and all this wonderful stuff is a great transition to the off season going to the spring football. So to me, making the bowl season is important, just to have that valuable time to develop your young men in the program.
Coach, your thoughts about what we see now with the coaching carousel changing so rapidly in the middle of the year, early signing day, which is, of course, in a couple of days, as Craig mentioned, and how that might be affecting that. And then now you have the transfer portal that's wide open like free agency and the NIL. Are you concerned about the innocence, if it's any left in college football?
No, I think it's important that we define our culture on our team, and that we also define our identity and what we're about. There's a difference between being the creativity and innovation, and then just going with the flow. For us, it's trying to be ahead of everything, but then seeing how all these new things, like you mentioned, that NIL, early signing period, transfer portal, how can that benefit our program? But more importantly, how can that help us build our culture? So we have to realize our identity is very unique, and I think as a head coach, and we think as a program, that it could give us a competitive advantage. And so these things that come along, there's great technology that can help us as well. But new things, innovation, creativity, and change can either help or hurt. And for us, we need to make sure that it fits in what we're and well aligned with what we're trying to do as a program, which is develop young men into great contributors to the community. That's our goal. I know my focus is supposed to be on winning games, but my focus is to develop these young men, allow them to live their dreams, but maybe tap into some potential that they don't even see themselves.
What's it like to be the head coach at your alma mater? And like we said, you got that commitment, the contract extension. You already had a passion for the institution by being a student. Is there a different level when you are the head coach that you can take it to?
I'm having so much fun. I'm honored to be the head coach. And before I was the head coach here, I played here for a legendary coach like Lavelle Edwards, who made a huge impact in my life. And this place has meant so much to me. So to be able to come back and I see this as a way for me to serve and do whatever I can to give these young men the type of environment that I got to enjoy when I was a player, and make that transition from a young man to an adult. That's the key for me. And to interact with wonderful fans. Before I was a player and before I was a coach, I was a fan of BYU, and I loved BYU as a kid growing up, watching all the legends that played here before. And so, I'm living the dream right now. So I think I could relate to a lot of the fans and their expectations and their frustrations too. My job is to make them all happy, and I'm looking forward to trying to do that.
Coach, what's it been like to see the development of Jaron Hall throughout the year? Was impressed when we saw you guys play down in Waco, and you can see the talent level. But just obviously played a few more games after that. What's it been like to see him progress throughout this season?
It's been great, and I have to give a lot of credit to his work ethic, but also to the development that he's had, and that's with having great mentors and people that are willing to work with him, guys like Aaron Roderick, who's our offensive coordinator, also people like Jeff Grimes that took so much time to believe in him when he was young. So seeing him and him mature on the field as a football player, have poise and be able to make great decisions. It's never perfect, but I'm just really happy that he has a great work ethic and is willing to learn and get better. And then we can overcome any mistakes with work ethic and with effort and energy. So that's what we're focused on. I can't wait to see how much he improves and gets better. And we're trying to get better just a little bit every day, and I see it working in him and seeing it working with the others.
Coach, you saw what Baylor did. You saw them firsthand, and it was a game that was played here in Waco, but then they kept winning. And then they won the Big 12 championship, and they're in the Sugar Bowl. Your thoughts, Dave Aranda is around like you're around at Brigham Young. He's not going anywhere. Your thoughts about what he's done?
Doesn't surprise me at all. I knew when we played that game and we had that opportunity to compete against them, we knew that they were going to be something special, and then you could see it. And so, from firsthand view, from my point of view, I saw some really good things, and I see the culture developing and starting to thrive there. And Dave Aranda's a great coach, and he has a great cast that's there, support cast, and the coaching staff that and great young men. So it was really cool. I thought it was a really cool game, and I thought the environment was awesome. Fans are great. There's a lot of excitement there, and I thought they treated us well. Other than beating us, I think it was a really good experience. But it was cool. We played that game, and our guys know what it's going to take to compete in that conference. And there's nothing better than the experience. I want them to learn from it, and I want them to make sure that they can improve and get better next time that we go against we're playing big Baylor next year. So we have to be ready for this Big 12 conference, and it's nice to have that experience playing against them and knowing that they won the championship. That was a lot of fun. I mean, that was a cool game, and college football is amazing, and it was nice that I know people on that staff and my friendship with Dave Aranda. I'm really happy for him.
Hey, Kalani, Coach Sitake, we appreciate you. It's great to have you on back when you played Baylor. It's great to have you on again here today after the news on Friday that you're going to be around the Brigham Young and eventually here in a couple of summer and a half inside the Big 12. Craig?
Yeah, Coach, before we let you go, I just want to ask you, what do you see from UAB? What are your thoughts on your final matchup this year?
Oh, great talent. I mean, you look at the way Bill Clark runs that program, well coached, and they have great athletes. We're excited to play against them in this bowl game. I know that it's closer to home for them. But we're looking forward to being on that field and competing against them. And then I know they'll test us. We know we're going to get their best shot. Hopefully we can provide our best shot against them on Saturday. But regardless of the outcome, we're looking forward to the game and looking forward to the connection and the festivities of the Independence Bowl.
How about the state of Utah in college football with what you've done, with what Utah's done, and even what Blake Anderson's done at Utah State?
Yeah, great coaches and great young men. And you can see what happens when the players are all bought into the culture. And I'm really happy for all the fans. that's part of the fun in college football, is that you see the accomplishment on the field, but you see the excitement and the enjoyment from the fans. Being a college football fan myself, I can relate to how exciting things have been. And even when things don't go your way, you can still know you can bounce back, and there's a chance that you can provide more joy for the fans. That's what it's all about.
Thank you. So are you, Kalani Sitake. Thank you, Coach. Brigham Young, football coach, signed a new deal, 2027. But as he said, and the same thing with Dave Aranda, what he's doing for his staff, taking care of not just the head coach, but also the staff and others that sometimes you don't even know are involved with the program. Great to have him on the show yet again today.
I think it's important for BYU to have a former player there because they do have a unique thing. You got guys going on missions and things like that. I think he just called back, but missions and things like that, and so you have somebody who can relate to the players in that way. So
yeah, great coach. I'm sure BYU fans got a little bit nervous when rumors started popping up, much like Baylor fans with Aranda or any other fan base. UTSA with Jeff Traylor, et cetera. But glad that he's sticking around. Glad that they've got their guy, and he's so clearly a fit. And that he'll be around for a while. So looking forward to the new Big 12. It feels like it's actually going further and further back, quite frankly. Did you see the little I feel like I saw some random report over the weekend about Oklahoma and Texas, and I can't even remember where it came from, but now it looks like, 2024 will be the year that they leave. And it's like, oh, really? Wow, no kidding. And so, yeah, it's kind of funny, but I'm looking forward to BYU and Cincy and all the rest joining and getting that ball rolling because I think it's going to be a great conference.
Okay, so Cincinnati, Luke Fickell stayed. Matt Campbell, Iowa State, he stayed. There were thoughts he would be gone. Dave Aranda stayed. Kalani Sitake stayed. Of course,
the one program that lost the coach is the one who never loses coaches.
Yeah, in Oklahoma. Yeah, you're right. All right, when we come back, John McClain joins us on Tuesdays at 5:30. Probably about as close as you could possibly be to Dave Campbell, who passed away on Friday evening at the age of 96. The name on that Bible, the Texas High School Football Bible. He'll join us in the next segment.
Yeah, I want to say on the whole staying thing, Mike Gundy wasn't trying to stay, apparently. We need to talk about that at some point. His little letter that got leaked about, his agent being interested, and now's the time for him to venture elsewhere, and obviously that didn't happen, so that was kind of a weird little wrinkle over the weekend. But coaching carousel finally starting to slow down. We'll talk about it later.
John McClain will join us next from the Houston Chronicle on Dave Campbell's Sikkim 365 Radio. Waco Custom Marketplace, what are you planning for when people come over for the holidays? If you, in fact, have anybody over, whether it's an office party, whether it's a gathering among family, or you're supposed to bring something to somebody else's Christmas party, Waco Custom Marketplace can help you with various trays of goodies. They have a butcher shop and a bakery. That right there allows you to put together what you want for anything, including just for yourself and your family. Their butcher shop is available for you to call at any time when they're open, obviously, or go online as well and contact them and say, hey, I want this. Maybe it's 4 inch-and-a-half thick fillets with bacon wrapped around them, or maybe it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 8 bone-in ribeyes that are cut like the ones I like at about 1 1/4 inch-and-a-half thick. And or it's possibly something else if you're going to cook and even tailgate. And yes, there's still some of that remaining with tri-tip, brisket, sausage, and more. And then, of course, the butcher shop has pork, poultry, and seafood. The bakery every day, fresh baked bread and goodies, sweets, treats, and Texas sweets. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Genco has extended their offer till the end of the year. Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months. And have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. You can't pass on rates this low and make no payments for 90 days. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Hey there, it's Jay from Pickup Outfitters with a holiday public service announcement for all the wives and significant others out there looking for Christmas gift ideas for their man. They say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. At Pickup Outfitters, we say the way to a man's heart is through his truck. And there's no better Christmas gift for the man in your life than something for his truck. Would your man rather have a new bathrobe or bumper or a cool light bar, socks or a lift kit, a new wallet or new running boards? The answer seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Pickup Outfitters is your Christmas gift headquarters. Why get your man a hoodie when you can get him a slick new retractable bed cover? So don't waste money on a meat thermometer or sweatpants when you can get him a gift certificate for anything he wants for his truck. That's the way to get to a man's heart. Stop by Pickup Outfitters at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco or check us out on the web at createacommotion.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sic 'em Bears.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Thanks to Brigham Young's Kalani Sitake, Jeff Howe, who covers Texas on their surge as they have every year at the end of right before National Signing Day, plus the transfer of Quinn Ewers, and also Kendall Karr breaks down Baylor, Villanova, and the basketball team. At 4:45, we're joined by Hall of Famer John McClain in the Houston Chronicle, normally with us on Tuesdays. I called John earlier today, and I asked him if he could come on earlier because of the passing of the great Dave Campbell on Friday evening. Jerry Hill will join us in about an hour and a half, who was very close to Dave Campbell as well. John, you obviously knew that Dave had not been doing well. Your thoughts about Dave Campbell?
Oh, I would like to say that when I got to the Texans game against the Seahawks yesterday, I get to the games about 3 hours early, and I noticed that a seat was this huge thing of flowers. And I walked over there, and I looked, and it was a Texas football magazine. The Texans had reserved a seat for Dave in the press box in RG Stadium, so I immediately took a picture, tweeted it, and got retweeted all over the country. NFL people it was such a class thing for the Texans to do. And their team president, Greg Grissom, came up with the idea. He grew up in Texas like so many of us. And he said, in the summer, he did like we did. You run down, get Texas Football Magazine, and you couldn't wait to read every word. And first of all, I'd like to say condolences to Dave's daughters, Becky and Julie, and to all of his friends and friends. At 96, it was coming at some point, but it was still a gut punch. I was at dinner with my wife and a friend from the Seahawks. I got the text, and I was just, caught totally off guard. And I sat there at dinner while the two of them talked, and I just started having memories. I had to take my napkin and start wiping my eyes because I kept getting tears going back to when my dad first handed me the Waco Tribune Herald. And he said, John Craig, if you want to learn about Baylor, you got to read Dave Campbell. And I started reading him, and I couldn't understand half the words because I was so young. But I had become a Baylor fan when I was 8 years old. And so I used to read him. And I always thought reading Dave Campbell and listening to Frank Fallon, those were like the voices of God. And the only other person I've ever thought that about was Tom Landry. And I'll say this about Dave. He would be so embarrassed about all this attention he's getting, columns all over the state, tributes to him. And he was so humble and so gracious. He never wanted attention. He got a lot of attention. He's kind of like Dave Aranda doesn't want attention, but the better you do, the more attention you're going to get. And that's the way it was with Dave. And a good example is that I tried to get Dave for years to allow media people to go into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. And he was there at the committee, and he said, no. He said, we're supposed to report the news, not make the news. And I told him, and he just wouldn't hear of it. And I knew it's because he knew that if we did it, he was going in, and he didn't think he deserved it. So one time, 15 years ago, he called me at our annual meeting, first Tuesday in June, at the Hall of Fame. He asked me if I would run the meeting for him because he had to go to a funeral and be a pallbearer. And I said, sure. So we get in there, and Steve Fallon was the executive director, one of my oldest and best friends going back to high school. And we started talking, and David, I'm sure you were there. Brad Sham, I think, brought this up. Well, what do we got to do to put media people into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame? And Steve Fallon said, well, it's against the bylaws. And I said, well, can't we change the bylaws? And he said, well, we've never had a situation like this. And so he looked in the bylaws and found out we could, and we did.
Yep. And
we voted on the icons of Texas journalism, and there were 4 writers, Dave Campbell, Blackie Sherrod, Dan Jenkins, and Mickey Herskowitz, and 4 broadcasters, Frank Fallon, Jack Dale, Kern Tips, and Vern Lundquist. And we said at that time, we'll never do it again. So it took a while to do that. Then we got into our regular nominating, and here comes Dave. And he goes, oh, y'all are still here. And he had Reba with him. And he walks into the room, and it got really quiet because everybody knew he wasn't going to like what we just did. Now, I remember somebody saying, well, John, you tell him. And he said, tell me what? And I said, well, we just voted a class of sports writers and sports broadcasters into the Hall of Fame, icons of Texas journalists. He said, well, we can't do that. That's against the bylaws. We changed them, didn't we, Steve? And Steve Fowler goes, yes, Mr. Campbell, we did. And he said, well, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. So we've done it. Well, we're going to change it back. And so Reba comes over to me and leans down. And she says, while he was arguing against it, she goes, honey, he'll do it. He loves it. He just don't want to act like it. And he did. We did, and we had that induction in conjunction with Touchdown Club of Houston at the JW Marriott here. And Dave asked me if I would introduce him, and I did. And it's one of the best honors of my life. And I'm so glad we did it because he's certainly deserving of that honor with the other icons of Texas journalism.
What was it like to have him as a boss?
Well, I'll tell you, Paul, I got hired in 1973 by Hollis Biddle, his right-hand man. Dave was always so busy. He wrote his columns for the Trib, and he was always working on Texas football. Then he did Arkansas football. Then he did a Cowboy magazine. And so we would love for him to come into the sports department, his office right around the corner. And sometime he would come in and sit, and we're like, want to gather around and hear him. And all of a sudden, his phone would ring in his office. His phone was always ringing. And we made things, well, we need to go in there and unplug it so he'll come in here and have time to talk to us. And he would bring in the sports sections from around the state, which he read every day. And that's how I got to reading the Houston Chronicle and the Houston Post, the Morning News and Star Telegram and two San Antonio papers and Austin American Statesman. We'd like fight over them when he would drop them off. And it was amazing. He was a tremendous editor and not just a tremendous writer. Dave was an English. I can't remember if he majored in English or minored in it, but he was a tough editor for Texas football. First story I wrote for him, it had my name on it, but it wasn't my story because he'd rewritten it. Of course, I wasn't going to tell anybody because it was a great story. And they're like, wow, you just started. I can't imagine you could write like that. And I'd puff my chest out, and it was years before I had enough confidence in myself as a sports writer to admit the truth. Well, Dave Campbell rewrote that story. And he was a tremendous editor, and so many people call him Darrell Royal, Grant Taft, Bill Yeoman, Frank Broyles, the coaches Gene Stallings. They would all call Dave and seek his counsel because they trusted him and because they knew whatever they talked to him about, he wasn't going to burn them. And I'll never forget one of my favorite stories, 1979. I'd been at the Chronicle since 76. And Baylor pulled a huge upset over Texas at Baylor Stadium. And another one of my oldest friends from high school, Robert Miller, who grew up there, he calls me, and I happened to be at the Chronicle on a Sunday. I'd covered a Oilers game, and he says, we just ran into Mike Singletary, and I can't remember what restaurant off campus it was. He told us the weirdest story. I said, what? That he told us that before the game, Taft ate a worm. I said, what? That's what he said. Taft ate a worm to fire up the team. Ate a worm? A real worm? He said, that's what Singletary said. He said, I'm just letting you know. And I'm like, okay. So I tell the night editor at sports, and he tells our Southwest Conference writer who's working on his Southwest Conference follow, call Singletary and ask him if Taft ate a worm. Well, back then you could call players, you had their numbers. So I'm listening to Jerry Wizard call Mike Singletary. He goes, hey, Mike, Jerry Wizard at the Chronicle. How you doing, Oz? Congratulations. Listen, we got this report that sounds preposterous, but I just thought I would follow up with you. He said, John McClain here got a call from a friend of his that saw you and said you told him, and he started laughing. Now, I know this is not right, but you told him that Grant ate a worm. Huh? What? He did? Hold on. He covers up the phone and says, he did eat a worm. So he wrote the story with Singletary quoted. We got a scoop on it. Campbell told me later he was holding it for his column that would run on Tuesday. And I said, Mr. Campbell, I said, do you remember when you used to say, I asked you for advice on covering a pro beat? And he told me, he said, write it or read it. And I said, you didn't follow your own advice. You didn't write it, and you had to read it. And he kind of shrugged his shoulders, but he was such a great man. I could talk to you guys for 2 hours telling Dave Campbell stories. I'm honored that Becky and Julie, his daughters, have asked me if I will speak at the service on Friday. And she said, Becky said, when Dad retired, you told some great stories about him, and we'd be honored. And I said, I would too. It's a privilege. So David Barron, who worked at the Trib, just retired from the Chronicle last year. He and I don't know who else they got, but we'll be there telling Dave Campbell stories, and then we'll be over at Texas Sports Hall of Fame for the reception afterward.
John, can you begin to describe the impact that Dave Campbell had on the city of Waco in particular?
Well, first of all, he came back. He grew up in Belmead, and he went into World War II, and he came out, and he didn't like to talk about that. He was in some serious battles. And Jinx Tucker was the sports editor. I remember my dad telling me Jinx Tucker. And when I was a kid, and I'm like, what's a Jinx Tucker? And he told me it was his name. And I said, who would name somebody Jinx? But my dad, and then when Dave took Jinx Tucker's place, the Trib had, I think, 2 sports editors in 60-something years. And Dave was a great writer. And he took a lot of time. Some of the greatest things he wrote were when people died. I think maybe the greatest thing I ever saw him write was there was a guy that used to work before I got there named George Rayburn. And George Rayburn died, and Campbell wrote this long column, and I must have read it 10 times. It was so good and so personal and so vivid. And he was a terrific writer, and we all wanted to emulate him. But nobody was going to be able to. And there were some great sports writers in Texas then. Blackie Sherrod, Dan Jenkins, Sam Blair, Bob St. John, Burl Pettit, Jack Gallagher, Mickey Herskowitz in Houston, Clark Nealon. Those guys were all giants. And those of us in college and everybody wanted to be in newspapers then because of Watergate. The Washington Post had brought down the presidency. And I remember when Bob Woodward spoke at Baylor, everybody wanted to go. And I was fortunate enough to be working for the Trib. I in June of '73 started doing Friday night football in September of '72, and so everybody read Dave. And Dave, his impact on because of Texas football. It's one thing to be a sports editor of the Waco Tribune Herald, but his reach because of the magazine and because of what he did with Arkansas Football Magazine, it extended to the border states, and people knew him. Albert Breer, who works for Sports Illustrated and has never worked in Texas, Ohio State grad who went to Boston Globe, he retweeted today in his Monday morning quarterback column my picture of the Tribune in the Texans press box with a comment, something about what a legend Dave was in the state of Texas. And I thought that was very cool. And people knew him all over the country. And because he was such a gentleman, too, one of the coolest things, Tom Stanton, when he was AD at Baylor, he and Dave were really close. And Tom got the press box at Old Baylor Stadium named after him. And I don't know why. At McLean Stadium, they haven't named it after him. They've still got everything that was in there. Drayton was one of his best friends. And so, anyway, Tom and I went to Dave's house, and Reba kind of gave us a run of the place for the press box. And there was a picture of the whole Southwest Conference press tour where the newspaper writers and columnists would travel around the state in Arkansas doing preseason football stories. Those were as big a read in the state as Texas football. And there was a picture of all these writers doing a pyramid on the grass outside of a stadium. And that was Blackie Sherrod, Dan Jenkins, Dave. And on the top, because he was the smallest, top off the pyramid was Mickey Herskowitz from Houston. And it was just a classic picture. And I don't know if it's over there. Baylor's got it stored somewhere, but I'd sure like to get my hands on it. But Dave was influential with everybody. And you think when I started writing for Texas football high schools, he'd say, young men, get as many names as you can in there. Because the mamas and the daddies and the kids and their friends and their relatives, they all want to see those names in there. And for every name you get in there, that's magazine sales. And so I would put as many names possible. David Barron was the editor forever, and he made sure that was the case too because it meant so many. And one time about 20 years ago, this would have been in the early 90s. Gosh, yeah. They had the Touchdown Club of Houston honored Dave as Touchdowner of the Year. There's one a year. And that was people like Jill Namath and Bear Bryant, Darrell Royal had won that. There were only a couple of media people that had been honored. And they invited everybody that had been on the cover of Texas Football Magazine to come to that banquet. And they all showed up, and they were up at the head table, and each of them got up and talked about what Texas football meant to them and their families. And Dave, of course, is sitting there boring and bored because he didn't like the attention. But listening to those guys, many of whom had gone on to be stars in the NFL, talking about couldn't sleep the night before the magazine was supposed to be on the stands, and their mother calling the stores, the drugstores, the grocery stores, the bookstores, when is it going to be out? And I remember Lloyd Wainscott, who played at UT, talking about the Boulash family from Lamar. Their parents bought every magazine and every place that you could find down in that part of the state. And the Boulash family was so angry because they had to go way away to get some copies, and that's what it meant. And because I'm older and I don't write for Texas football anymore, I'm not sure about the impact. But back then, everybody wanted it as soon as it came out. And if you got a copy before others got it, you were the coolest kid on the block. And I had a professor at Baylor. Boy, Baylor won't like to hear this, but I'm going to tell you guys. I needed to graduate, and I needed one class. And I went to this professor, and I said, I need help. I'm stupid. I already got a job. I need one class. I'll show up every day, even though I work 60 hours a week. Is there anything I can do that where you can help me graduate? And he said, you work for Dave Campbell, right? I said, I do. He said, you work for Texas football? And I said, yes. He said, if you can get me a copy of that magazine before any of my other friends, you take my class and you come every day and you work hard, and I'll make sure you graduate. So I went with Dave, and Dave would never have gone along with us. I've never told the story publicly. I went with Dave to the printer, and the first copy, literally, you had to wear gloves, hot off the presses, and he always took the first one. And I can't remember what cockamamie story I told him of why I needed the second one. Might have told him somebody died. I don't remember. And so he gave it to me, and it was hot off the presses. I got to the professor's house at like 4 a.m, banged on his door, and said, here it is. So he said, show up every day. And I did, and I made an effort. And I don't know what I would have made on my own, probably an F-, but I graduated.
Well,
thanks to Texas Football Magazine.
Yeah. John, you got anything else? We could talk forever, and I hope you'll be able to jump back on with us again tomorrow at 5:30 to talk many other things as well. But Craig and Paul both in certain ways brought this up about him. In this day and age of what everything is me, and the way we are, the way the professional has gone, and even like high school football commitments, the transfer portal, I don't know if he wanted to be around for any of that. Did he?
I wouldn't think so, but Dave learned to adjust with the times. You know, he was old school from a different era, and he believed in being factual, and he believed in checking your sources and being accountable. He would never let you just throw something out there and hope it's stuck on the wall like so many do today. He had so much honor, and I don't know of anybody that was more honorable. The three people most responsible for me being where I am today were Dave Campbell, David McCann, head of journalism at Baylor, who's 88. I just saw him 2 weeks ago, and Tony Peterson, who got me hired in Waco, got me hired in Houston, and we were roommates at Baylor. And then he put me on the Oilers way back when. And without those three, and McCann and Tony considered Dave their mentor as well. And it's amazing. I can't wait to see there'll be people all over the state and the country coming to his funeral to honor him.
John, thank you very much. John McClain, Hall of Fame
thank
writer
you guys.
On the icon and legend in Dave Campbell. John, Grant Tapp put out a comment. His daughter Lane put out a couple of comments that he made about Dave Campbell. Last week Bill Glass. Last week Dave Campbell. And you see all these icons and legends, not just from Waco, Baylor, or the state of Texas, but elsewhere. When we come back, Jeff Howe covers UT football. They had the commitment from Quinn Ewers, South Lake Carroll. This is when he was supposed to commit and sign anyway. But, of course, we know he had the trip to Ohio State and all of that. Jeff Howe next on Sikkim 365 Radio. The city of Woodway, they continue, and there's 2 weeks, it was 12 days until Christmas. If you go to discoverwoodway.com, you can go in there and find information about the promotion they're doing for letters to Santa Claus. What this is for, of course, are for the children, for the grandchildren, maybe for you. But if you go by the Arboretum, which is open Monday through Friday, you can go by their location and pick up, gift cards from, the magical mailbox. You can drop them off. Santa's elves will get them to Santa Claus, and he'll then respond to whoever sends one of these cards in the mail. Write a letter to Santa Claus, drop it in the mailbox. You can pick up the postcards from the pavilion inside the city of Woodway. It's discoverwoodway.com, and more information on that. The pavilion at the Arboretum is open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. So if you have a child or a grandchild that you want to have something special, get a letter or a postcard from Santa Claus, go by the Arboretum, pick one up, put your name on it, have them write the letter, and make sure there's a return address, and Santa Claus will return it back to whoever it's for. It's discoverwoodway.com.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See deal for details.
Get the quality pre-owned car you need now at a price you can afford at Richard Karr. Find great deals like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $225 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $438 a month. Plus, get top dollar for your trade now. Richard Karr. Pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and our aggressive lenders say yes when others say no. Find your next car or truck at Richard Karr today.
At Richard Karr, we give you more.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, we're back. This 4 o'clock hour continues. Joined by Jeff Howell, Longhorn Blitz on the horn in Austin as well. And he joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Of course, the news yesterday, Quinn Ewers has decided in the transfer portal to commit to Texas, play at Texas where he was originally committed and then went to Ohio State. Jeff, thanks for your time. How big of a deal is this? And we've seen what were supposed to be big deals at quarterback go to Texas, and some have, Vince Young among a couple of others. What does this mean? And how do we know he's actually going to end up being as good as everyone thinks?
Yeah, Smokey, thanks for having me. Before we get started, I caught a good chunk of John McClain on with you guys a minute ago. And, you know, for those that don't know, yes, I cover Texas right now. I've been doing it for about the last 10 to 15 years. But before that, there was about a 3-year run where I covered Baylor. And even getting to be around Dave Campbell for, 3 years at men's basketball games or football games. I've been trying to find the right word, the right sentence to sum up what that little stint in my career meant to me, just getting to be on the same beat with him. And I thought John McClain said it, just honorable. I don't know that I've ever met or will meet anybody in our business or maybe in life, period, just as honorable as Dave Campbell. So I don't my thoughts and prayers, and I share the same sentiment with our family at the Horn and Horns 24/7. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Dave Campbell's family, to the Baylor family, to the Waco community. We lost a titan in our business and a gentleman, period, with Dave Campbell. So just wanted to mention that.
Sure,
but Smokey, as far as Quinn Ewers goes, I went looking at the numbers, and Colt McCoy signed with Texas in that recruiting class in 2005. Which, when you looked at it with Colt and Quan Cosby and Roy Miller, it was a 15-man class. Pound for pound, it was probably the best class Mac Brown ever signed. And since then, up through, the 2 guys they'll sign Wednesday when Quinn Ewers, his son, filled and delivered, and Malik Murphy, the 4-star quarterback out of California, the same. And Texas has signed 22 quarterbacks, not counting Ewers and Murphy. And only one of those 22 was a multiple-year starter, just took the job and didn't let it go, and that was Sam Ehlinger. So Texas has been down this road of getting quarterbacks before, and there's a lot of guys that didn't pan out for one reason or another. I think the reason why you're so excited, why Texas fans should be as excited about Quinn Ewers as they are, when you look at the guys in our recruiting department at 24/7 Sports, our analyst department, and we're talking to college coaches and big time talent evaluators before we make these rankings. Quinn Ewers for me, is Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray level, just in terms of his arm talent, his ability to flat throw the football. I think if you watch him, the release will probably remind you a little bit more of Phillip Rivers than those other 2 guys. But you talk about guys that have come out of this state that can just flat out fling the football. He's comparable with those 2 guys. I think it's kind of those 3 guys for me. The one thing that you don't know about Quinn Ewers and nobody knows is once he's under the lights and there's 11 guys at the Power 5 level on the other side of the football that have planned all week to take his head off and make his life miserable, how's he going to react? Now, he got one heck of an apprenticeship, what turned out this year, being a redshirt at Ohio State and sitting behind C.J. Stroud and getting to learn how to play quarterback at this level and processing all of that under Ryan Day. But this is where you're counting on that natural talent combined with Steve Sarkisian's track record of developing quarterbacks, that hopefully he's the kind of guy that can get you to a point that if the rest of the roster is right and you get yourself in a position in the next 2 to 3 years to win at an elite level, that he's the kind of quarterback that you win at an elite level with.
Jeff, what does this mean for Hudson Card and or Casey Thompson?
I think, Paul, this means this is Sark basically protecting himself from one or both guys transferring. And I think even before Quinn Ewers was a possibility, folks we talked to behind the scenes, I think Stark was working under the impression that one of, if not both of those guys would hit the transfer portal. You know, he was pretty blunt, as blunt as he's been about anything publicly with us after the season, as soon as the K-State game was over, saying, look, that quarterback position, yes, we know Texas had other issues on offense, but he just felt like that quarterback position did not play at the level that team needed to play out for them to be as good as they could be last year. And again, there were a lot of things that went into that, but he made it pretty clear they were going to look to upgrade the quarterback position. And even now, Paul, you know, I'll get back to Casey Thompson-Hudson Card in a second. Even now, I think you'll still see Sark kick the tires on veteran quarterbacks in the transfer portal just to make sure that they're not left wanting at that position. He's not leaving anything to chance. They know, look, the transfer rate for blue-chip quarterbacks, even before you factored in the portal and one-time transfer, you know, it was about a 50% transfer rate for blue-chip quarterbacks once they got on the campus within their first 1 to 2 years. So you figure a couple of these guys, even though your projected quarterback aren't going to be here by the time the 2022 season starts, but he's still going to look at that. But I think at this point, the writing is on the wall. If you're a Texas fan hoping that your quarterback room in 2022 includes Quinn Ewers, Casey Thompson, and Hudson Card, the reality is that's just not going to happen. I think this means one of, if not both of those guys, will be gone by the time the season starts.
Jeff, had some players announce that they were coming back, Keandre Coburn and DeMarvion Overshone and Deshaun Jameson, and I might be missing one or two names there, but what does that mean for Texas moving forward and into next year?
I think, Craig, the biggest of those three is Overshone. You know, Jameson kind of had an up and down year, and I think the good thing with him coming back is if he'd have bailed, Texas would have been in a world of hurt in terms of cornerback depth. I mean, it basically would have been Janae Barron, Keaton Crawford, and then a bunch of guys that haven't played in spring ball. So at least you get a veteran presence back with Jameson. And you know, Coburn, you can say the same for Coburn, but Texas is a little bit deeper on the interior defensive line. Now, I think when you look at Overshone, you look at the best defenses in the Big 12 this year. And you look at it and look at the coaches' picks for first-team all-conference. So it's Malcolm Rodriguez, it's Terrell Bernard, it's Mike Rose. Right now, in the space and pace era of football, the better defenses in the Big 12 have elite-level linebacker play. And even when you look in the last decade, even though Texas has had some historically bad defenses, when they've been really good, what's been the one common denominator? In 2011, they had a linebacker group of Jordan Hicks, Keenan Robinson, and Emmanuel Acho, three guys that played in the National Football League. 2014, Jordan Hicks was an All-American. 2017, you might have had the fastest linebacker tandem in the country in Malik Jefferson and Gary Johnson. And when Texas hasn't been good at linebacker, we've seen the results have reflected that on the field. So I think DeMarvion Overshone returning. And keep in mind with him, 2 years ago, or, going in the spring of 2020, everything got canceled because of COVID. That's when he was making that transition from safety to linebacker. So he basically lost an entire offseason trying to make that transition and had to do it on the fly. And then going into last spring, he had a shoulder surgery and missed the entire offseason, wasn't back until they were in the summer workouts. So this is going to be really his first offseason to be available to go through the winter workout program, to be available to go through linebacker drills and spring ball, and really get to learn the nuances of that position without having to do it on the fly. So I think not only does it help him in his journey to play in the National Football League, but it's going to help this Texas defense. And the only chance they have to have better than average linebacker play was for him to come back. And now you hope that he is coming back. Now he can get on that upward trajectory and give you one of the better linebacker presences in this league.
All right, Jeff, I want to try to phrase this question, and it's not to be, for a place that has everything, obviously not in the last decade, they've struggled, we know, as far as wins and losses, but for a place that has everything, what we hear about the University of Texas, it seems like at about the time they're the most fragile, something happens where things are dumped in their lap. For example, the Baylor scandal. In this case, Quinn Ewers transfers, and among other things as well.
Lincoln Riley leaves. Does that make any sense without trying to be too critical about it?
No, I was actually thinking about that the other day because I was looking at the 2016. I was looking at just somebody asked me about receivers. What's been the best receiver haul Texas at? I started looking at 2016, and I'm like, well, You already had Colin Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey committed. I'm like, but people look at Devin Duvernay on paper as a 2016 signee, but it took a lot of events for him to get to Texas if you think back that far. So, no, I mean, and you look at us, I mean, whether it's coaching changes or coaching instability, I mean, the guy I just mentioned, like, think about how big it was for Texas to get Malik Jefferson, right? If you go back to his recruitment, if Kevin Sumlin had just been able to tell him something other than, I don't know what I'm going to do for my defensive coordinator position, Malik Jefferson would have been an Aggie. So all these different, and they were in the middle of making a coordinator transition. So there's a lot of things that just when it seems like it's the darkest, there's some good fortune that falls on this program. Now it's all about, can Steve Sarkisian take this good fortune and do something with it? I do think, and I don't know, Smoak, maybe this is me being naive, but it does sound like the administration is 100% behind Steve Sarkisian. They're going to give him time to kind of do this, tear down and tear it down with the studs and rebuild it. And if he does have time, which, you know, for some fault of their own, some fault not, Charlie Strong and Tom Herman didn't get ample time and good circumstances to do this. If he does have that time, you feel like now with the way they're recruiting, especially at those key positions, at quarterback, along the offensive line, along the defensive front, now if you're a Texas fan, now you hope, okay, if he's got time, maybe you can see this thing through to the end, and then maybe you can finally get back on track to where, you know, are you going to have the run Mac Brown had and, you know, from 01 to 09 where you won, you know, 100-plus games and won a national championship and played for another, maybe should have played for another? I don't know. But you've got a chance now, if you can see this thing through, to definitely leave, you know, 5 and 7 seasons in the rearview mirror.
Down to the rivet seems a pretty interesting thing for Texas, Jeff. I was just thinking about you saying that, and to even have part of the powers that be admit that needs to happen, as at least got to be a minor step forward.
Yeah, Paul, because I think as you look at it, that's been the biggest problem with Texas. I think whether it's at the administrative level, at the donor level, at just you know, your casual fan level, I think there hasn't been a lot of man in the mirror type moments where you look and take an honest assessment. And I think us that follow the program have been guilty of this too, taking an honest assessment of the program and realizing where you are and what needs to happen. And I've said this on my show, I've written about it on the site. That to me is the biggest difference between Texas and a program like Baylor. Now, granted, Baylor has had situations where you needed to tear it down. It was required to kind of tear things down and build it back up. And talking about, you know, that transition from Art Browse to Jim Grove for a year and then to Matt Rule. But Baylor was honest about where they were, what they needed to do, the kind of coach they needed to hire that could do it the right way. And they let Matt Rule do his thing, and in turn have let Dave Aranda do his thing. And now we see what Baylor has done, what the tree has borne in terms of the fruit. So Texas really hasn't done that. I think Texas has looked for the quick fix, and you've kind of tried to, well, maybe if you change out coordinators or you make these wholesale changes in the middle of these rebuilds and nothing has worked. You know, guys, at the point, I don't know. I mean, if you do see coaching turnover at Texas this offseason, I think maybe you see maybe a couple position coaches move on and do something else, but I don't think there are going to be wholesale changes after a losing season. And to think about that, I mean, seasons like this at Texas in the past, you're turning over almost entire staffs, if not just a complete regime change. So it is a nice little change of pace because I think for the first time in a long time, Texas is looking in the mirror and taking a really honest assessment of where they are, where they want to go, and what it's going to take to get there.
Jeff, in terms of those changes, while nothing major is expected, Gary Patterson, there sure is a lot of smoke surrounding him and conversations. I've seen various reports, including from Horns 24/7 about talking the last couple weeks or whatever the case may be. What's kind of the thoughts there, the expectations there, and how much of this smoke is actually fire?
Yeah, Craig, my byline was on the report. I'm still not 100% sure what to make of it. What I can tell you is this. Gary Patterson is really intrigued from the folks I've talked to close to that situation. He is really intrigued about helping Texas make this transition into the SEC. You know, he's got a ties to a lot of money folks at Texas. His wife is a Texas alum. They're really close with the Lost Odds. Obviously, there's the relationship there with Gary Patterson and Chris Belconte. He's really intrigued about that aspect of it. What we've been trying to figure out is, okay, what does that look like in terms of his role? Mm-hmm. And I've been told straight up, point blank, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He doesn't want to be kind of the traditional analyst role, like Nick Saban has his army of analysts, but he also doesn't envision himself coming over and taking over for Pete Kwiatkowski and being a defensive coordinator, even a co-coordinator. Now, he has met with Steve Sarkisian. We reported this morning that as early as Thursday, he could be back in Austin meeting with the defensive staff to kind of see what the fit is. I'm working under the impression, Craig, that if Gary Patterson winds up at Texas, it would be in a similar role to the one Jerry Kill had at TCU the last 2 years, where I think the title was special assistant to the head coach, the head coach of the offense, something along those lines, where basically you're doing everything that within the NCAA rules you're allowed to do as a non-member of the 10 full-time assistant coaching staff. You obviously can't call plays on game day. You can't coach players on the field. But basically you've got oversight of every aspect of football on that side of the ball. You can make recruiting suggestions, break down tape, scouting reports, the whole deal. You're kind of in the foxhole with the coaches. You're not out on the road recruiting, and you're not involved in sending in signals on game day. So it sounds like it would be kind of almost a CEO administrative type role, if you will, if Gary Patterson were to end up at Texas. But I think this meeting, if it does happen on Thursday or Friday, that meeting is really what comes out of that in terms of what information we get. I think at that point we'll figure out, okay, does this thing really have a chance to happen, or was it just, hey, you tried to make it work and it didn't? But I think at this point, when you look at this Texas defense in 2021, historically one of the worst defenses in school history, I think, again, this is Steve Sarkisian saying, look, I'm willing to not leave any stone unturned to try to fix this defense going forward. And Texas, we knew they were talent deficient in some areas, but for you to be as bad as they were, I don't think anybody, including Sark, found that acceptable what happened last year.
So I know they got a couple of offensive line commits, and I guess, we could get into the weeds of recruiting and individual guys, so we can just save that for another offseason talk. But, Jeff, as somebody who formerly covered Baylor, as you mentioned earlier, what's it like on your end to see you mentioned like the breaking down to the rivets and all of that, but to see them doing what they're doing now with Dave Aranda, after Matt Rule, after Art Browse, et cetera, is it just kind of crazy to you that they're still hanging around?
Yeah, because, forever and kind of growing up in that Central Texas area, seeing there were a lot of times that I hope Baylor fans don't lose sight of this. There were a lot of years there where Baylor hired the wrong guy and guys that just were not the right fit for the program. And I think to get a guy like Matt Rule, who in my opinion is one of the best talent evaluators and developers in all of football, and then Dave Aranda, I know you guys have sat down and talked to him. I mean, he's just a really bright, engaging guy that really understands the game of football and the mechanics of how it works. There's not a lot of flash or pizzazz, but I mean, you're just hiring really good football coaches, and I think that's what Texas has to get to. And it's all about fit. I mean, in my lifetime of coaches that Texas has hired, the only one that really fit was Mac Brown. I mean, other guys, whether it's John Makovic or Tom Herman or Charlie Strong or David McWilliams, for one reason or another, guys just haven't been really good fits. Is Sark a fit? I think we'll find out. There's a lot of things that tell me yes, he is a fit. But the bottom line is, I think it just shows you whether you're talking about the situation Texas has been in for the last decade or kind of where Baylor is now in this run of success that they've had. We can talk about what kind of city you're in, the conference you're in, this, that, and the other. The bottom line is, are you hiring the right guy, and are you giving that guy everything he needs to make it work? And I think unequivocally, Baylor has done that with Matt Rule and now with Dave Aranda.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time. We'll get you again. National Signing Day. The first one is Wednesday. Jeff Howell, 247. Also the Longhorn Blitz and on the Horn in Austin as well.
Yeah, Horns 24/7. The site for you Texas fans probably already know about it anyways, but Jeff does a great job. And, yeah, that was massive news with Quinn Ewers. I mean, I was expecting Texas the entire time. I mean, that's where he was committed a year ago before making the decision about Ohio State and then, the NIL deal and all of that. And, when it came out that he was already reopening his recruiting and I saw Texas Tech and TCU, all due respect to those programs, I never thought for a second he was going there. So this was no surprise when he made his announcement. And you know what? They do seem to find a way. It's like The Undertaker, when they're dead, all of a sudden they just rise back up. And it's, getting a commit from Quinn Ewers, or it's Gary Patterson possibly joining the staff, or it's getting 2 offensive line commits when they desperately need offensive linemen. So, yeah, I think you look around the Big 12 guys, and I think that makes it that much bigger of a deal that Baylor won it this year because everybody's retooling now. And this is what happens every offseason, but I think you're really looking right now like the moves that are being made and the kind of the way that the landscape's shifting and, it's a lot of uncertainty out there, but for them to go in a year where there was so much and to go and just get it done and finish it and be that team on top at the end, I think it was a massive deal for them and really helps carry them into an offseason where you're going to see Texas and Oklahoma and all these make big splashes. But you can just look back on that championship and say, we've already done that, and that's where we're planning to stick around. But it's going to be a fight.
Yeah, with Quinn, it was pretty simple. He went to Ohio State instead of Texas because he didn't like Tom Herman anymore, and Tom Herman was getting fired or whatever. And then he went to Ohio State early because of the money with the NIL deal because of the UIL, and then when that becomes no longer a problem, you just go back to where you really want to go.
Yeah. Did you see Sonny Dykes' comments on Quinn Ewers?
Said he wouldn't fit?
Yeah, that was interesting because Sonny wasn't even meeting with him. It was his assistant coaches met with him because of the timing issue where Sonny couldn't be a part of the conversation. But, yeah, he said after the fact that Quinn wasn't a fit. Now, I don't know, what he means by that, but there's a lot riding on this young man's shoulders. I mean, he's already made, $1 million+ or apparently made $1 million+ and hadn't even, played basically. So, that'll be interesting to see. But this is the offseason. Everybody's going to get their hype train rolling. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter what happened this past season. It's all about now. It's on to the next one. Texas is drumming that hype up. And, Oklahoma landed a big quarterback commit. Brent Venables getting his first big pledge. So, going to be very interesting to kind of see this jam-packed offseason and how it all unfolds.
All right, when we come back, Kendall Karr covers Baylor. He's with us now on staff at Sicken 365. Had a chance to go to lunch with him last year during that run in Indianapolis for Baylor after their win against Villanova. His thoughts about this defense. Can it actually be better? Well, there's still a lot of games to be played. His thoughts next on Sicken 365 Radio and 365 Sports. The 2021 Ram. The brand itself just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's initial quality. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram. The 2021 Jeep Gladiator ranked first among all mid-sized trucks, and they are all on the lot at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. In fact, the Big Finish sales event continues throughout the month at Allen Samuels. The 2021 Ram 1500 Lone Star Quad Cab. Values up to $6,750 or 2.9% financing and also $2,000 in bonus cash. That's for, again, the 2021 Ram 1500 Lone Star Quad Cab. And then on top of that, the luxurious, elegant third-row seating you find in the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L. A couple weeks ago, Ted Teague, the GM, said, hey, come on by and test drive this vehicle. It was the Grand Cherokee L. It was phenomenal. It's an SUV and a pickup truck kind of combined into one. And by the way, first responders for these vehicles for Jeep get an extra $500. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited, total values of $2,400 or 0% financing for 72 months. So you have all of that. The brand's award, and then, of course, discounts and dealer discounts and much more. And also cashback. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Baylor men's basketball, we had Jerome Tang, assistant head coach, on earlier today as they smothered Villanova. And the atmosphere was incredible. The play was unbelievable. And Villanova's lost to the number 2 ranked team in the country based on when they played them twice, and also a number 6 ranked team. So they're really good. And we're joined by Kendall Karr, covers our college basketball for Sikkim365.com, and will be occasionally with us as well. We look forward to that on this show throughout the season. Kendall, I get nervous when I start to hear that their defense is better than last year, because last year won a national championship. So how good are they based on where they are right now and what you saw on Sunday?
Smokey, happy to join you, Craig, and Paul right now. Say that off the cuff. I think, as crazy as that question seemed to me a while back, I do think there is a chance this defense is better than last year's. I know the ghost of Davion Mitchell and Mark Vidal would not be happy to hear that, but against Villanova yesterday, we all watched it. I haven't seen a defense be kind of that good in key moments. And there were even spots where I was like, okay, they messed up here, and it didn't matter. And that also tells you these guys got a long way to go to get even better than right now the number 2 defense in the country.
Kendall, I saw you at maybe it was the Texas game when I asked you, who's going to be the guy on this team that takes over things when the moments are tough. And not to say that they haven't had a couple ones, but what does it say about this team that instead of trying to find the leader, the guy who takes the shots when the going gets tough, they just don't let it get tough? It just seems easy for them.
Right. As they say, the best way to win close games is not play close games at all. And Baylor's done that to such a high level. I remember we were talking, Paul, in that press box, and it was like the popcorn chicken kept coming out, and before either one of us could get it, it kept getting gone. So I don't know. That's my big takeaway from that day, besides the joy of seeing you and Smokey, Paul. But on the, like, who's the guy or whose team is this, that was one of the big burning questions. And on one night, it could be LJ Cryer, it could be Matt, it could be Adam, it could be James. My guess is by the end of the year, if there's one shot Baylor's got to take to make it, they run some kind of action and say either Matt or Adam's taking the bucket. But going into that second half of the season or going into conference play, you really feel like there are 4 or 5 guys that if the ball's in their hand, you're okay with them taking the shot.
So what have you thought of the new additions, the guys, the Kendall Browns of the world, Sohan, et cetera, making their debuts this year or becoming bigger parts of the roster and debuting? What have been your thoughts on this young crew that's coming in as reinforcements?
Craig, they've absolutely blown away expectations. Let's start with Kendall Brown. First, shouts to the name. We did the press conference after the opening game, and I was like, Kendall. My name's Kendall as well. Got to give a shout out to any Kendalls that are men, since 95% of Kendalls seem to be women. So, like Ashley Hodge, co-owner of the site, sometimes gets grief for being one of the final Ashleys that's a man. It seems like Kendall was going that way, but if Kendall Brown can get to the league, and right now he's a top 10 pick on a lot of boards, I think he's got that ability. What he showed in that bucket when I think it was like 3-0, where he just kind of stops and you're like, okay, there's no hope for him here. And then he did a turnaround and you're like, this man's arms aren't that long. And we're right to that. Him will play at a huge level in the NBA. And then Sohan's defense is unbelievable because the way he can move laterally and then get vertical at such a level, and he has a good, I think, feel and understanding for the game. There are mistakes both of them sometimes make off the ball defensively, but where they've gotten to at this level has blown away expectations. And the big question for, I think, Sohan coming in was, does he have the athleticism to play at this level? Just because, I got to be real, I don't have a lot going on sometimes, but I don't spend a lot of my evenings watching Polish basketball games, so I was just like, I don't know what's going on in Poland to figure out who's good, but you watch him play, he easily has the skill to be an NBA player, and I think both of them will probably be in the association next year.
Yeah, I watched him for some reason because the game was open. It was an 8-12 or 15-point lead, and so I just started watching him. I asked Jerome Tang this earlier. He is a freshman going on basically like he's almost a fifth-year senior like Mark Vidal in the way he plays. He does a lot of the dirty work, doesn't he? Not that he can't play and score or whatever, but it seems like he is, as a young freshman, he does a lot of the dirty work, loose balls, coming up with an offensive rebound, you're playing the defense. Do you agree?
Absolutely agree with that characterization, Smokey. In the first half, he corralled an offensive rebound where he just kind of was like he was ready to jump out of the gym to get it and kind of risk his health. That's not something you see often with a guy that knows he's on draft boards. I mean, he's lived all over the place. I think this is just a dude who doesn't really care what else is going on. I think he cares about, himself. I think he cares like anybody would about his draft position, but I think he's more concerned with what's going on. Are we winning? Here's what's happening. I think he kind of shows out his personality and his appearance, his demeanor, and doesn't really care about, all right, did I score 20 points tonight? It's, okay, did Baylor win? Did we do well? And I think he understands that happens. He's going to get drafted.
We asked Jerome Tang about this, or I did, about Matthew Meyer becoming a defensive force all of a sudden. Kendall, you've watched his development. His freshman year, part of me thought that he only watched half of basketball games is when the team he liked had the ball because he didn't play defense or want to at all. And now he's out there making plays on both sides.
Absolutely a correct characterization, Paul. And I had a chance to listen to you all talk to Jerome Tang earlier. And I remember he was laughing and he told that great story about Makai Mason saying y'all are the best coaches in the world for that. I think that's an accurate take where Matt was an easy guy to back cut at times where he'd kind of miss what his assignment was. He'd be late on rotations. Felt like he kind of would run out of energy at times. And so last game was the best embodiment of this. Second half opens up. He takes a really stupid shot in transition. You kind of see Drew look over like, what's he doing right now? Tang orders in a sub for Matt early on. So you kind of wonder if old Matt Meyer would have looked at that and said, you know what? I'm going to come in. I'm going to get my shots up. Whatever. It's me against the world. I got to get mine. Instead, yesterday, what's he do? He comes back in. He makes all the rotations he needs to make. He's kind of perfect when Baylor plays him in what they call the low man spot near the hoop. That's a tough role in Baylor's defense because you have to know if you're going to get the big man coming to the hoop or you're going to try and stop the ball on the side. It requires a lot of responsibility and mental acuity, and Matt's met that moment very well. And he has not kind of thought, all right, Ochai Agbaji scoring 24 a game for KU. I want to be a Big 12 player of the year. I got to get shots. Instead, he thought, we won the national title last year. This is my team as much as it is a couple other guys' teams. Winning the national title is a standard for me, not winning Big 12 player of the year.
So, Kendall, we're a couple weeks away from Big 12 play starting up, and now There's 5 teams in the top 25 coming out of the Big 12. Iowa State all the way up to 11, so almost 3 top 10 teams now at this point. But what are your thoughts on the league and what you've seen so far through these first 10 games or so for everybody, and what we're going to start seeing here in about 2-3 weeks?
Craig, I think Baylor and KU are legitimate national title contenders. If you gave me Baylor, KU, and Gonzaga versus the field, I would take those 3 over the field. I still think Gonzaga, not to talk about them too much, but I think their equity is a little bit low right now. I think Baylor and KU are clearly in a tier unto themselves. KU had a bad loss to Dayton. But KU, since then, their defense has improved. Their offense is phenomenal. I think Texas, I was low on them to begin the campaign. They played Seton Hall and Gonzaga, 2 teams with a pulse. Gonzaga embarrassed them. Chris Beard said, we'll win that game regardless of the scoreboard. Well, if they play too many more games like they did in that one, they'll have to have that mindset in early March when Texas goes an 8th year in a row without winning an NCAA tournament games. I don't think Texas is at the level of KU and Baylor. I think Texas, Texas Tech, OU, which got a big win over the weekend against Arkansas, who was previously unbeaten, are all kind of in that next tier. And I think Iowa State, although they've won a lot of games early, that Memphis win doesn't look quite as good. Way over expectations entering it, but I'd be pretty shocked if Iowa State's legitimately a top 15 team. I think much like it was the last 2 years, it's Baylor and Kansas's league, and I think one of those 2 teams will win the conference.
Kendall, thank you. Had great time in Indianapolis when we had lunch. What was the name of that place you took me to?
I think we hit up the Capitol Grill, Smokey. It was a great time as well.
Yeah, I had a great time. Good to have you. Great to have you with Sikkim365.com with your college basketball coverage. And not just that as well. Thanks for your time. We look forward to having you throughout the season.
Anytime, fellas.
Thank you. That's Kendall Couch, Sikkim365.com. Joined us along with Travis Reeder on December the 1st. And both cover Baylor in many, many ways. All right, when we come back, David Hellman covers the Cowboys, right? He'll join us. Cowboys beat Washington to kind of pretty much all but sew up the NFC East, which they can mathematically do this weekend. How about that? I believe that's correct.
I think anytime they win in the next, if they win one more game, they won the NFC East.
And so their schedule obviously is very favorable because the NFC East sucks, other than maybe Dallas, and then they have Arizona near the end. But coming up next, David Hellman and the Cowboys win, the good, the bad, and maybe not so good. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
I went to a Christmas party on Saturday night, and it was a craft beer exchange. Well, where did I go to get the craft beer that I had in that craft beer exchange? Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Unbelievable selection there. I also picked up a bottle of Pinhook, which I've been talking about here, and I haven't actually tried that bourbon. So I picked up a bottle of Pinhook while I was there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Look, their customer service is great. Their variety, their selection, whether it's craft beer, whiskey, gin, whatever it is, they've got a great selection of it. And, while I was there looking around, there were other people in and out. Just, hey, I need this, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to get this, boom, boom, boom. Great customer service from the staff at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. That's what you get all the time there, and their drive-thru window is as fast as you can possibly imagine. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
At ID
Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Jay from Pickup Outfitters here with your holiday gift-giving guide. So it seems the air fryer is an, air quotes, hot Christmas gift this year. An air fryer? Come on, really? First, an air fryer is not a real fryer. It has no grease. It's a mini convection oven. And you probably already have one of those in your house. So you're just wasting money on something that's not even real. You know what is real? A grill guard. It's made of real steel and it protects the truck of someone you love. And you can get one for that special person on your Christmas list at Pickup Outfitters. So avoid common Christmas gift mistakes like house slippers, a beard, nose, ear, hair, and eyebrow trimmer. Or a man purse? You better not. Give a Christmas gift that says, I love you. A grill guard, a toolbox, running boards, and other great gifts at Pickup Outfitters. You can even get a gift certificate to let them pick out whatever they want. Pickup Outfitters is the Christmas gift headquarters. 220 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
The Big Finish sales event is going on now at Allen Samuels. The new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Quad Cab has values up to $6,750 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 bonus cash. First responders get an extra $500. Ram, the winner of the prestigious J.D. Power's Initial Quality. The Big Finish sales event is now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And so they'll take that penalty, not the play, make it a 3rd and 5. Prescott has time over the middle, caught for the touchdown, Amari Cooper.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Here we go, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We'll have another segment on the late, great Dave Campbell with Jerry Hill, who worked for him and also writes for the Baylor Bear Insider at 5:30, like we did with John McClain. David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. Well, the Cowboys are pretty much now, not that there should have ever been a question, but they're going to win the East. They kind of showed the flash. David, the offense, I was listening a little bit to the fan in Dallas, just a little bit today when I was driving around, and I hear almost angst from people worried about that this team and the offense. Is there a concern about what's going on with the offense?
Yeah, there should be. Absolutely. I mean, it's a wonderful story. It is. And that's a really pleasant surprise, but the offense was supposed to be the moneymaker of this team. I mean, you look at the resources that they've put into it, the money that they've paid, and the draft picks that they've spent. And on top of that, we saw them function as one of the 3 or 4 best offenses in the league for the first half of the season. Yeah, it should absolutely be concerning. I mean, they scored 20 offensive points yesterday. They went 1 of 6 in the red zone.
Dak Prescott with one very uncharacteristic interception, but two on the day. They haven't been able to run the ball in a month and a half. So, I mean, I'm not trying to say that they're terrible, or I don't think anybody needs to panic. There's still a month to go in the regular season, but they got some things that they need to figure out because this is a trend that stretches back 5 or 6 weeks at this point.
How much of it is the injuries and then not really having everybody together? And again, Tyron Smith going to be out at least this week again with that ankle injury. And how much of it is teams maybe figured out how to slow them down?
That's an excuse that might have held water a few weeks ago. Obviously, when you lose Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb in the same game, you don't have Tyron Smith. That's all well and good, but yesterday, up until Tyron Smith got hurt, is probably as healthy as they're going to be for the rest of the year. I mean, they got their whole receiving core available. They had Zeke. You don't have Tony Pollard, but again, when are you ever going to have everything? It just doesn't happen in football. And so there's enough firepower there. And you see flashes of it. Like, they had a 2-minute drill before halftime. They had some nice possessions. They got into the red zone. They drove into the red zone 5 times as an offense. So, I mean, clearly there are some flashes of some things that work. But the consistency and the rhythm just hasn't been there again, especially when you think about what this team was doing in September and October. So, like I said, there was a period of time where I thought the losses might have held some water, but now I start to think that it's more of just a rhythm and a timing and maybe even a confidence issue that's more to blame than not having a specific player.
Yeah, do you feel like Dak in any way? He's a world-class guy. We know that, and we've seen him when he's hot. Do you feel like everybody, even Tiger Woods, starts to miss a putt or two? Do you feel like he's lost any confidence?
I don't think so. Everything I know about Dak is he's got the utmost belief in himself and inner confidence and stuff like that. So that would be really surprising if that was the case. But you do wonder if things start to weigh on you. Maybe, not to say that he's got the yips, but maybe you just get to a point during the season where you're overthinking some things that used to come natural. Maybe that's because you don't trust your protection as much as you used to, or you're worried about aggravating the calf injury that held him out for a week, or he's had some receivers drop some balls over the course of the year on him. Maybe all that stuff just kind of snowballs. And so, like I said, I don't think he lacks for confidence, but maybe all that stuff just starts to weigh on you after a while. But that's what makes this whole thing so frustrating is I don't think there's a clear-cut answer. I think you got to consider all that stuff when you're trying to figure these things out.
David, Tony Pollard not being there, obviously, that's one of those wrinkles that, he's not really a wrinkle. He's a full part of the offense now, and it certainly looked like they were missing him a lot yesterday. Do you expect to see more of CeeDee Lamb lining up at tailback and maybe taking some of those plays that Tony Pollard did like they did yesterday a little bit?
I don't like the idea of CeeDee Lamb lining up in the backfield and playing running back. Kellen Moore kind of chuckled about that tonight when we asked him about it. I mean, he's just not built like a guy who you want taking direct shots from NFL defensive linemen and linebackers like multiple times per game, more than 3 or 4 times in a game. I do think, at least until Tony's back, and who knows, maybe that'll be Sunday, but Kellen Moore needs to get creative and find some ways to create some explosiveness in this offense. Zeke does not have that right now. That's not necessarily his fault. We know he's dealing with a knee. And now it sounds like they're not going to have Cedric Wilson either. He was just placed on the COVID list. So that's another gadget type of player that you don't have. So whether it's CD, Amari Cooper can do that stuff as well, regardless. I think and Michael Gallup for that matter. I thought, people were killing Kellen for calling wide receiver screens yesterday. I thought that was a great idea. A lot of the reason it felt like some of them weren't working was because the passes weren't well placed, which again, that goes back to Dak getting through whatever this rough patch is. But until Tony's available, I think it's going to be on Kellen Moore to find some creative ways to scheme up some side to side, east to west types of runs that can open things up, because CD did a good job with his opportunities yesterday. And obviously that's been something Tony's brought to the offense all year that they might not have for the time being.
Micah Parsons. What is just a freaking stud, huh? Just
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's to the point, and I mean, I'm not sorry about it. I think the questions about him during the draft were fair, and I've never shied away from the fact that I probably would have drafted Rashawn Slater. I obviously am more than willing to say I was dead wrong, but the funny thing is, I think even people who really wanted Micah Parsons were probably dead wrong. Because the simple fact of the matter is if he had ever put this stuff on tape, if people had known for a certainty that he was going to be one of the best 5 edge rushers in the NFL as a rookie, he never would have fallen that far. He never would have gotten past Atlanta at pick number 4 or any number of other teams. I mean, it looks silly in retrospect that there was ever a question about it, but hey, it's a wrinkle that worked out great for the Cowboys. I mean, he didn't play his final college season. There was no tape of him as an edge rusher. And lo and behold, I mean, they look like they've got another Lawrence Taylor on their hands, which I didn't feel comfortable saying that a month ago, but after a certain point, you just got to face facts. I mean, the guy's incredible.
Absolutely. Who was the last rookie to win Defensive Player of the Year? Was it Lawrence Taylor?
Yeah. The last and only. He's the only one to ever do it. And, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to talk down on Lawrence Taylor. I'm well aware of how great he was. But go stack Micah's stats up next to what Lawrence Taylor did as a rookie, and you will see that it's a very favorable comparison. So I don't know if he wins it, but he absolutely belongs in the conversation.
Did Randy Gregory, and I believe he before the season even started, he won the player Jerry will never let leave award because of his talent, but did he make himself $1 million yesterday with how he played?
I mean, I don't think – I mean, yesterday was incredible. Honestly, it was just incredible the way, you talk and talk and talk about how good the pass rush can be when these guys get back, but we've all done this long enough to know it doesn't usually come together like that. It doesn't – I mean, literally everybody got in on it. Micah was great. Lawrence was great. Randy was incredible. Even Neville Gallimore had a sack. And if I'm a Cowboy fan, that's what gives me optimism is like, okay, the offense has some stuff to work through, but when the defense is getting after the quarterback like that, there aren't a whole lot of offenses that can deal with that. I mean, they should be able to hold the vast majority of the teams in this league to a manageable point total when they're getting after the quarterback like that. But yeah, I guess to answer your question more directly, Randy Gregory is going to have a very lucrative offseason, if I had to guess. But I didn't need to see him do that yesterday to know that. But it was still fun.
Yeah, that was they showed the replay of that from ground level, I believe, or behind the offense. And had that screen pass been complete, the way the blocking scheme was and where everybody was, that could have gone 60, or however long it would have been. Not sure he would have scored, but
honestly, that's what I love about – that might be my favorite thing about football is if you turn on the tape of any game, both teams will point you to about 8 of those where they say – John Fossil was just saying that in his press conference about, they drew the running into the kicker penalty and, do you regret that? And he was like, absolutely not, because we came about a quarter of an inch away from blocking the punt. And it's like every game on both sides, you're a couple fractions of an inch away from having a big play, but that's what makes it the ultimate team sport, right?
Yep, it does.
David, did you get to maybe sneak down and sit on those fancy benches?
I didn't. I'm not allowed on the sideline this year, which is a major bummer. But man, I loved everything about that story. I think, it's easy to say this in retrospect, but the minute I heard what was happening, I was like, okay, Jerry's not doing this for no reason. As much as he might like the branding, he's not just doing this for fun. And it's probably because FedEx Field is the biggest dump in the NFL and their stuff doesn't work. And lo and behold, that's exactly what the issue was. But I love the Cowboys for always having a creative solution to a problem. So good for them.
All right, David, thank you very much. Cowboys win, and 27-20 was it was more dominant than that. Then they had to hang on a little bit at the end, and then to get the fumble recovery by Javon Curse on the fumble recovery.
J-Ron Curse.
J-Ron, that's right.
I believe they're cousins, but yeah.
All right, now, when we come back, we're going to hear from Jerry Hill. But here's what I want to do. Armstrong, do you have the video of the young man? Now, there was a game, and I don't remember if it was Friday night or what, but it's a great game, Alabama and Houston, 2 teams that last year, Houston Final Four. Alabama, of course, was in the Elite 8. and made a great run. So Alabama wins the game. At the very end, there's a play near the rim, and just depends on who you want to talk to about whether it was goaltending or not, based on the rules or the not. And it was very controversial. It brought a lot of attention. And when Houston left the court, I'm not trying to put so much on those who did this as what happened afterwards. There was a coach that kind of went up in the tunnel, and a couple of players, they kicked a chair or two and pushed over the trash can. This is Jamal Shead. And I've been wanting to show this because in this day and age of so much that's going on, as Houston's, we're about to play it, right? As Houston's going into the tunnel, they're pissed. Here is, can we open that up? Yeah. So there's the trash can that's been knocked over. You see the chairs. He starts to slowly but surely pick up every piece of trash. This is at Alabama, tough loss. And Jamal Shead goes back before he goes into the tunnel and starts to do that. I know that, I don't know what that means. To me, I loved it. I absolutely love what I saw. I'm a big Jamal Shead fan.
I did. I thought two things. Either Jamal Shead is, and this is the more likely one, is he's just a class kid that, went and did that, or he has painful OCD and can't see trash in the ground.
It's possible too.
But either way, Jamal Shead's the kind of guy who takes his cart all the way back to the roundup.
You mean he's not incredibly freaking lazy?
Yeah.
He's not an incredibly lazy person that can't take a cart 5 feet away to put it up. Yeah. Imagine that. Imagine, man, he must be tired all the time, all that effort, to do simple things like pick up trash or put a buggy back.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him. That's a great, show of character, and not so much by the coaches that tipped the trash can over, because apparently it was coaches that did that. But I'm sure that, that's been addressed by Kelvin Sampson and
I'm glad you go ahead. Finish up.
And I'm sure that will not happen again for Houston basketball, because I think that turned into something that probably nobody even realizes happened to now something viral because a young man decided to pick up that trash. So, yeah, now it's on the radar, and I'm sure that, that's something that we won't see again.
And then I saw a tweet yesterday evening from Greg Byrne, who's the Alabama athletic director. And obviously Houston was mad, angry, frustrated. And I get what they were upset about. And again, it happens. And Kelvin Sampson was very angry. He's emotional. He was trying to fight for his team. Greg Byrne put this up on Twitter, that Kelvin Sampson called him directly to apologize for how kind of the way things went at the end. And Greg Byrne put that up on Twitter. I'm sure and that was cool to see, that Kelvin, after the emotions calmed down. I love Kelvin Sampson. He's a great basketball coach. I remember watching him as he was battered by Baylor in the Final Four a year back in April. But that was pretty cool that Kelvin picked up the phone, called him, and said, hey, listen, we handled this wrong, even if you're frustrated. It wasn't Alabama's fault. It was a call at the end of the game that it went Alabama's way, and Houston was a little bit frustrated by it. Another note, remember Willie Jefferson at Baylor?
Mm-hmm.
He was suspended and then released from the team.
Mm-hmm.
He is on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
It's a defensive end now.
They won the Grey Cup championship yesterday. And there's an interview of him on Twitter. It's pretty cool, at Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Really cool interview. And you could just see the joy in his face about being able to. Here's a young man that lost his career at Baylor, ended up going to Stephen F. Austin, had some problems with the pot, and he was a part of the team that beat Hamilton in overtime to win the Grey Cup. Do you have that? Did I send that to you, Armstrong? Can we play the audio as well? This is pretty cool.
We was going to give them plenty of opportunities to go out there and put points on the board. Plenty of opportunities to go out there and put points on the board. We went in at halftime down 3. Everything was cool. We came out, things got a little shaky. In the fourth quarter, we handle business. That's what we do as a defense. And when we handle our business as a defense, and we give Zach that ball in the fourth quarter, he makes stuff happen. You know what I'm saying? It came down to an overtime thing. When we got so much confidence in our offense. As a defense, they give us the opportunity to go out there and shut the lights off on teams. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go out there and shut the lights off.
That's Willie Jefferson. Good for him, and Winnipeg won the Grey Cup.
We're going to go out there and shut the lights off.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's really cool. Happy for him as well. Anything else?
Yeah, Dan Lanning's the coach at Oregon.
I have this right here.
We have not mentioned that. That was a big story over the weekend, and obviously Oregon was, apparently pursuing Justin Wilcox from Cal and got turned down, which is crazy. And now he's apparently getting worked on a new deal with Cal. That is something I saw a little while ago. So that ends up working out for him. I don't know how Ducks fans feel about the fact that Justin Wilcox turned them down, and he could be the head coach, not Dan Lanning if that had gone differently. But, yeah, Lanning, not a guy with a whole lot of, if any, Oregon connections. I know he had his press conference today or, had a meeting today and was talking about, the team and how they're going to, the typical new coach stuff. But, Oregon had that letter that John Canzano put out days after the fact that were from former players talking about, their fears of losing the Oregon identity and things like that. I think, ultimately is a good hire. They got kind of screwed being this late in the coaching cycle with Mario Cristobal. They didn't have a chance to, see the entire field the way that a lot of other schools were able to. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, hot name and hot coordinator and all of that, great defenses, but also not a whole lot of experience as a head coach, which apparently he balked at in his press conference and said he took offense in a joking way, saying that he had, coached like, I forget what the thing was, but it was like, I coached like the 9th grade something like that. He's like, I've been a head coach before, and made a joke about, coaching intramurals or something like that. But I was interested to see that finally come to a conclusion, and we'll see what he does up there at Oregon.
Guess who else wasn't also a head coach before? Every other head coach before they were a head coach. I mean,
a lot of people.
So it just depends. Like,
how about Chip Towers?
Hey.
Yeah, good for him.
How about Chip Towers, who he reported that Lanning was going to Oregon, and then everybody basically blanked down his throat, not him, to dispute the report. He knew, he reported it. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution is a stud, and so is Chip Towers. And I sent him a text. I said, hey, you don't care what I think. Very proud of you for sticking to your guns. You knew it. It was right despite the delay in the official release.
Look, and nobody's right 100% of the time. I mean, there's sometimes you get things wrong or a little off, but Chip Towers is a guy who, believe me, if he tells you he's heard it, he's not going to put that on social media. He's not going to put that in the paper unless he got it from one of 3 people who was either the guy himself or 2 other guys that would know and tell him, because that's not the kind of reporter he is. So there are some people, you got to be like, okay, well, whatever. But if it's Chip Towers, if it's that guy who's been beat writing on that particular beat for, 25, 30 years, then.
We had him on. Remember, and I'll tell you what I did see, and I do know that there are some national writers that won't do this, and some of them used to work and ESPN used to be the worst at this, and people started calling them out. Closest source or closest sources have told ESPN. When somebody had already reported something, they're starting to now, and they should have, and this has been a couple of 2 or 3 years, give credit to whoever it is, whether it's you, me, or anybody, or us. And all the national writers that I saw, 9 out of every 10 of them said first reported by Chip Towers, and they should have, even though it was well before the official. One other note on Mike Gundy. Craig, you wanted to bring this up, and Paul, you guys were going to talk about Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State.
Well, it leaked a letter. I don't know how this got out, but a letter leaked from someone who represents him that he was interested in the Florida job this year. And the letter was sent before Bedlam because the Florida job was open. And it said that he'd turned down Tennessee twice, Arkansas, and Florida State, I believe. Maybe there was one other in there. And it was time for Mike Gundy to see what else is out there. Now, look, the Florida job and Mike Gundy, I would have advocated for that match if I were a Gator fan because Mike Gundy's been successful. But I think they had the right guy in Billy Napier. But kind of strange, Craig.
Yeah, it's strange because Mike Gundy says he doesn't have an agent, and he says that he doesn't know what anybody's talking about. So if he doesn't have an agent, then he's got a guy by the name of Dan Bonnick, I believe is his name, that is posing as his agent. So that's kind of weird. That's something that Mike Gundy might want to clear up and figure out behind the scenes is whether or not he has an agent. But, yeah, I mean, Bonnick apparently played at Oklahoma State under Jimmy Johnson and was a grad assistant at one point in time. Gundy said that he used to be here during his time as a player in the 80s. And he's in the circle, and a lot of people know him, but he's just saying, like, no, I don't have an agent. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Obviously, you know, somebody's on Gundy's behalf, stoking the flames for other jobs. So that's very interesting, and the timing's very weird. And I don't know what the purpose is of really it all leaking, or if it makes that much of a difference really for Mike Gundy moving forward. But it definitely was interesting to see, him or somebody on behalf of him potentially reaching out about that Florida job. Obviously, that didn't go to him, and they made the big Billy Napier hire, which, hey, that's a great hire. But, I've wondered about Gundy in Oklahoma State. Is he long for Stillwater? I mean, he's already been long for Stillwater. He's been there for a really long time. But, like, at some point, either he's a lifer or, maybe you start to look around a little bit. And, not surprised to hear that he might have looked around a little bit. That's not too shocking to me, but he's still in Stillwater, so that's all that really matters, I guess, at the end of the day.
He has been in Stillwater since 2005. He's one of the most, if you consider 16 years, right, as the head coach. Yeah. Now that Gary Patterson is out, he's the longest tenured, am I right, coach in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Ferentz at Iowa with what he's done among others. His name has surfaced before, even during the Baylor search with Matt Rule. His name popped up a little bit, and of course, at one time he coached at Baylor back in 1996, but as an assistant coach at the time. But, yeah, this was interesting because he's got a really good thing going at Oklahoma State, and that was kind of bizarre and random that just popped out.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see, the jobs that he's apparently turned down that were mentioned in there, like Florida State and Arkansas and, others as well. But, yeah, we'll see what happens and hopefully get some clarification on Mike Gundy and whether or not he's got an agent posing behind the scenes for him or not. But that was interesting.
When we come back, Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider, earlier today, John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, who will be speaking at Dave Campbell's funeral. His thoughts about the late, great Dave Campbell. Jerry Hill worked for him, knew him, and the news on Friday, obviously, like with so many others, just hit him very badly. But he's going to join us today to talk about his memories of the great Dave Campbell. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Sports bettors, BetUS.com has pretty much everything going right now. NFL, NBA, college football, bowls in the CFP. You've got college basketball, PGA, UFC, and, of course, everything's up and live. Look, you can bet on who the next NFL coach is to be fired. The odds move on that every week. Right now, I'm pretty sure I haven't looked in the last couple of hours, but I'm pretty sure Urban Meyer's probably shot up that list. You can make a bet on whether Shad Khan's going to fire Urban Meyer before anybody else gets fired. You can do all that at BetUS.com, and you can do it using our promo codes, Sikkim125 and Sikkim200. That's Sikkim125 for a 125% bonus on cash, or Sikkim200 for a 200% bonus on crypto. So go to BetUS.com today and use our promo code, Sikkim125 and Sikkim200.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Berg Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Berg Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sikkim Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717, or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrapped fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
We will hear from Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear insider, here momentarily. We mentioned, and John McClain joined us at 4, the passing of the late, great Dave Campbell. On Friday evening, he was 96 years old. He was the father of the Bible of Texas high school football, plus all of everything else he did covering the Southwest Conference, the Waco Trib, and much more, and a veteran. Here's a picture of the latest issue of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. It's the one that came out back in the summer. And, of course, A&M with a lot of expectations and hype. It was A&M on the cover, and you could see the name, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine at the top, like you saw every year. I have a bunch of them since it began. I'm probably missing a very, very few of them. We're now joined by Jerry Hill, and it was an honor for me a couple of different times to write articles in that magazine. And Jerry Hill worked for Dave Campbell, knew him incredibly well. And I know, Jerry, you wrote a column that was in the Waco Trib over the weekend as well. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, David. Yeah, that was kind of hard Friday. Just had a heads up, that he had, been in the hospital with pneumonia and had a couple of strokes while he was there and was being sent home with hospice. But so you can kind of be prepared, but then you're not.
Jerry, obviously working for him early on in your career had to be something. You don't often get to pick your first mentors or the people who help you in the business, but I would assume that you and everybody who got Mr. Dave early on feels pretty lucky.
Yeah, it's amazing that, and you're right. You don't always get to pick that guy, and I can't imagine that I could have had a better first boss. Obviously he's a gifted writer and all of that, but he's just such a good guy. I mean, never had errors. You would never think that he had any kind of, money or prestige. I don't even think he saw himself as that way. I don't think he recognized, really what an unbelievable, person, whatever you want to say. He was all that. But he never showed it at all. He was just a very kind, gentle man that, you're right, Paul. I could not have picked a better boss. And again, too, and I think I wrote this in my column, because at first I said, that so many of us trained at his feet, but we didn't. He let us be right alongside of him, and none of us were his equal, but he let us be right there. We didn't train at his feet. We trained right there beside him.
Jerry, what are a couple of, you've kind of pointed to some in a roundabout way, but what are a couple of lessons you learned as just in a professional capacity as a writer that you still carry with you that maybe you learned early on from him?
Yeah, and I think, Craig, one of the big things, and John, I may have touched on it too, but, as much as pretty much all of us wanted to copy him, we couldn't. We couldn't copy his style. His style was his own, and we had to develop that. But, I think from him, just the attention to detail is probably the biggest thing, Craig, because, and I mentioned this in the column too, but I was doing like some high school copy for the Texas Football Magazine and was actually, believe it or not, typing it on a typewriter and turning it into Dave. And I would get it back and just covered with red ink. And you're just like, oh my God, I cannot do this. I'm a failure. I'm the worst. But what it did was it made me better because I didn't want to see all that red ink. So, in his own way, he would critique you. He never made you feel like you were lesser than, but he let you know, dude, you need to get better, that kind of thing. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, Craig, is just that attention to detail and the pride of having your name atop a story. That's your name. That's people know you wrote that. And to have some pride that, you want it to be correct. You don't want to have mistakes in there. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I got from him.
Yeah. And we had John McClain on earlier, and we've mentioned this as well. He was as big as he was. That's the last thing he ever thought himself of.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I said, he just never had any airs. And if you just, if you spent time with him or, rode with him in the car or just, had lunch with him or whatever, if you didn't know, about him, he's not going to tell you. It's like, and this is a classic example. Hollis Biddle was right by his side forever. That was his right-hand man. And for the longest time, Hollis had no idea that Dave had won a Bronze Star medal in World War II. Never talked about it. Again, that predates all the Texas football and all that and all the stuff he did professionally, but he didn't talk about himself much. So, yeah, you're absolutely right, and certainly never made you think that he was anything but just another guy.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Jerry, something, we talked to John McClain earlier. I do want to tell a bit of a funny story about Dave Campbell, who was one of the thinnest people I've ever known, but he clearly had a hollow leg or something because
oh my gosh,
I have never seen a human being put away food like Dave Campbell. He should look, if he didn't become one of the greatest sports writers in history of the state of Texas, he could have been Joey Jaws Chestnut. Seriously.
That is so true. And Paul, when we would make trips to Oklahoma, I think we stopped at every Brahms along the way because he had to at least get a shake or something, But yeah, he was a voracious eater, and he could eat any of us under the table. We talk about drinking under the table. Dave could have eaten any of us under the table because he did have an unbelievable appetite and loved his sweets and stuff like that. He had to be careful with that later on in life, but yeah, the man loves to eat.
Jerry, I don't know if this is – go ahead, Craig. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't know if this is true or not, but when we interviewed him, and we were fortunate enough to do that, did he on occasion, whenever he would start finishing a comment and then get back on track, was he the one that always said, anywho?
Yes, he did say that. You're right.
For some reason, that came to me this morning. Anywho, yeah.
And there's nothing really after it. It's just like, I'm done. I'm done. That was his /30 that we used to put at the end of stories. Anywho.
Yeah.
And then you better have another question ready because
he's done. Yep.
So, Jerry, I know towards the end it wasn't, I don't know. I didn't speak to Dave Campbell, but probably not very good. But what do you think was just kind of going through his mind, perhaps, looking at all the success going on in Waco right now, what's being built up? I mean, he's seen victories and defeats and a lot of bad and all of that. But, where it is right now is about as good as I can imagine it's ever been. Just your thoughts on, his contribution to Baylor athletics over the years, and then what you think he thinks of what's going on right now.
Yeah, it is amazing, Craig, and you hate that he's not here for all of it. Like I mentioned, I wish he could be at the Sugar Bowl with us. I get used to seeing him at the press conferences. I get used to seeing him in the press box, and man, I wish he was there. But you're right. He loved Baylor. He made no bones about it. And what's funny, Craig, is before he actually, because he worked here for 15 years with the Baylor Bear Insider. But before that, when he was working at the Trib, this told you that, how he was so impartial, because there was no question who he loved. He loved Baylor. But in his writing, he didn't show that. He didn't. You would never have known. As a matter of fact, I probably had several people ask. They thought he graduated from somewhere else. They thought he graduated from UT or A&M or something. But yeah, particularly this last stretch, he loved every bit of it. And David, he loved women's basketball. He loved Coach Mulkey, and that was kind of his passion later in life. It was a weird deal because football was always his thing, and that was the main thing he wrote about. But there later in life, man, he loved following that team. I think some of that was Reba, but Dave loved Kim. Dave loved following that team. I think all of this that's happened lately, I think he's loving it. He's loved what Scott Drew has done, obviously, with the men's program. And then, I hate, again, that he wasn't able to be in the press box this year to see what Dave Aranda did for this football team.
Yeah, no question about it. And whenever he was at a press conference, and he was at more than you and I will ever be able to do combined, right, he was going to get a question. And my God, he should, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's one of the things I said in the column was a press conference was never over until Dave asked the last question. And usually it's like Matt's walking off from the podium. Coach Rule was walking off, and Dave, Coach, and he had to get his one. You're right. He had to get at least one question in because he had something in his mind and he wanted it answered. So, and you're right. He's earned that respect, and certainly. And I appreciate coaches, all of them. Coach Rule, Coach Taft, all of those. They have always shown him respect, and I appreciate that. Even Coach Aranda the other night tweeted, when Dave died, that we had lost a great one. So, I appreciate all the coaches and Kim did too. I think Kim just loved Dave and loved seeing him there at the press conferences and stuff. But that's a pretty cool thing.
Dave Aranda never tweets. I saw his tweet pop up, and I was like, whoa.
That may not have been him, but it was. I saw something else there.
One of the things that he did, and I know we got to go, Paul, but he used to have those lunch. Was it a dinner or not a dinner? It was a high school football gathering in front of a group, usually a church group or someone like that. It was during the week in
over
August.
his. It was over at his church, I think, Austin Avenue United Methodist.
And to be invited to be a part of that, you did not say no. You didn't say no to that, right?
And I remember, I think it was maybe a quote from Kim Gorham, that was the sports editor that actually followed him at the Tribune Herald, that so many of us that and he would ask, and this was dealing more with the Texas Football Magazine, but he would ask, and you couldn't say no. There's no way. And most of us would have done it for free just because Dave asked. And that's the respect that he got from everyone. Everybody that wrote for him, everybody that knew him, that's the kind of respect that Dave Campbell got.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry, thanks. Love the column. Appreciate the good. I know that wasn't easy, and yet again, It probably was easy because it was easy to talk about and write about an icon and a legend in Dave Campbell. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear insider, with us on Dave Campbell, who passed away again on Friday evening at 96. When we come back, Paul Catalina, Top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace can save you hundreds and maybe even thousands of dollars, and also save you a hell of a lot of time, and also find out what hurts so much in your shoulder, your knee, wherever it is inside your body. $497 is what it costs to get an MRI at Ideal MRI, and they have the state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. Great staff, great techs and specialists. Go online, idealmri.com, if you want to get more information or even set up an appointment. And if your doctor brings up, your family doctor, your orthopedic surgeon, whoever it is, they bring up, hey, we need to get an MRI of that to find out whatever that is, whatever hurts, you tell them. And they know about Ideal MRI, idealmri.com online. $497 or less every single time. They'll also help it, maybe even lower. But that's the max, $497, and the average MRI is $1,100. So if you have something that hurts a lot, that shuts you down, and you need an MRI, remember, idealmri.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment, and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'em125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'em200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'em125 and SICK'em200.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash for trade. TTL Extra. See deal for details.
Get the quality pre-owned car you need now at a price you can afford at Richard Karr. Find great deals like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $225 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $438 a month. Plus, get top dollar for your trade now. Richard Karr. Pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and our aggressive lenders say yes when others say no. Find your next car or truck at Richard Karr today.
At Richard Karr, we give you more.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 quarterbacks in the transfer portal. A flood of transfer portal quarterback news today. Several of them went in, and I'm ranking the ones that are in there right now. There could be more. Like by the time I finish this, there could be 3 guys that jump in and might change this, but because you never know. But number 5, USC's Kedon Slovis. This is someone that was highly thought of at USC, got kind of caught up in the wash. Jackson Dart is the presumptive starter right now, if it's not Caleb Williams eventually, Craig. But I think Kedon Slovis can go and help somebody. I don't know what level he's going to have to go to, but he was a highly, highly, highly recruited player when he went to USC.
Yeah, I know Graham Harrell liked him a lot, just in not talking to Graham, but just in chatter down the line. And, they had a good relationship, but obviously there was a lot of changes at USC this year. And Lincoln Riley is going to have his pick of the litter. And, we'll see if it's Caleb Williams or not. I think that Brent Venables is doing his best to try to keep Caleb around. And that will obviously, tilt the Sooners one way or the other as far as how we kind of view them moving forward. But yeah, Slovis is a good player. Just again, kind of a traffic jam there at USC. I mean, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions is not a great mark. He's going to have to at least bump those touchdown numbers or lower those interception numbers one way or the other. But you don't want to be hovering around 500 in that category, touchdowns and interceptions. But yeah, he's a talented guy and a lot left out there to prove. So, yeah, I'm sure there will be plenty of suitors interested.
Yeah, and some injuries that derail it as well. Number 4, Zach Calzada from Texas A&M just announced this today. This is shocking to me because, look, Haynes King beat him out in the spring. But Zach Calzada came in and played almost every game past the first one for the Aggies this year, and they were 8-4. Look, could they have been better? Yes. Should they have probably not lost to Arkansas and Mississippi State? Yes. And LSU? So, yeah, all those things were true. But Zach Calzada has a lot of arm talent. He's got a lot of talent that if developed right, I think can really be productive for somebody. This one really, really shocked me. Calzada has, of all these 5 guys, and the number 1 guy was the number 1 recruit in the country here a couple years ago, has the best arm by far of any of the guys on this list because he could knock out all the windows in this building.
Yeah, going back to Slovis, you do have to mention his injuries. Had a neck injury, had a leg injury. So, yeah, that's obviously played a factor into it. As far as Calzada, I'm still waiting for an explanation. This just doesn't make any sense. So I don't know if he's got like a family member that's sick and he wants to get closer to home or whatever it may be. It doesn't make any sense that he's transferring. It doesn't. There's no proven guy there. Haynes King has not done anything. I'm tired of hearing about Haynes King. Great. He grew up 45 minutes from me. He was great at Longview, but he hasn't done anything. So, talk about him all you want, but until he's proven something, he's not a reason for Zach Calzada to leave. So I don't know. That was bizarre to me. That transfer just made absolutely no sense. So I don't know if he's got some NIL deal lined up somewhere else or what the case may be, but yeah, just bizarre.
He had the one. He was okay at times. He's like a young fastball pitcher that can't find the strike zone. He was a guy that could will them to some things. Sometimes you wondered about him. He frustrated fans, and yet he had the game against Alabama. He comes out like Superman, comes out of the phone booth, tent, and then leads them on that drive. You think he's better than Slovis?
I think he's got the best arm talent And I ranked him above Slovis because he's healthier than Slovis.
Okay.
But he has the best arm talent of anybody. This is one, though, it's kind of like you mentioned, the fastball pitcher. He's just got to get with the right pitching coach who teaches him how to do it. Now, I thought Jimbo Fisher would have been a good guy to do that, but, maybe there's somebody else out there that can get the most out of Zach Calzada, and the best of luck to him because, again, he has got an absolute howitzer for a right arm.
But I was told by a coach that Quinn Ewers has perhaps the best arm they've ever seen.
Well, he's not in the portal anymore.
Oh, that's right. There you go. I mean,
he would probably been on this list, but again, not on the portal anymore. So.
Yeah, Calzada's going to have to get healthy and get his shoulder right, and we'll see where he goes. But yeah, I just think it's kind of a bizarre, out of nowhere decision.
Yeah, number 3, and this one is not necessarily based on talent; it's more based on grit and gamerism. Is Bo Nix? If Bo Nix is in the right situation. I'm talking about the right situation. A team that's pretty much built and needs a leader and a gamer and a guy who can keep you in games. Now, look, he's going to make some mistakes because he's got a little gunslinger in him. But I would want a guy with the ability of Bo Nix on my team, especially if I was lacking leadership at quarterback. I think Bo Nix, again, it's got to be the right situation that I think he can flourish very well somewhere. But, again, and this is not a guy, Bo Nix is not somebody who, when he comes out in the NFL, people are going to be clamoring over to draft. But I do think in the right situation in college football, Bo Nix can help you, but you have to have the right pieces around him.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about this is his whole do not contact tag that he made public. So basically, he already knows where he's going, or he knows like the couple of schools that he's going to talk to.
I would think UCF is probably way up there.
I don't know, man. I love college football, but the fact that we got guys that are just bolting and they already have their plans already made, and I think it all sucks. I really do. I mean, we're talking about like 5 dudes who started at their schools last year that are all just bolting, and not even all of them make any sense either. So, like, I don't know what kind of underhanded NIL stuff's going on behind the scenes, or what bad advice is being given, or what, but I mean, this transfer portal thing is just stupid. I mean, it's just getting stupid at this point. You can't even celebrate a guy signing to you because a year later he's probably gone. Like Ohio State, all that fanfare for Quinn Ewers for what? For what?
For 2 handoffs.
What did he do at Ohio? What will he be remembered for at Ohio State? Just making free money, basically.
One thing, NIL.
Yeah, and that's it. And like this NIL thing, man, I am not at all against paying the players, but the fact that, I mean, you just have Texas saying, let's screw it, let's just call it what it is, it's free agency, and just ripping it off. Like, those offensive linemen come in, they're not all worth money. They're not all worth, like, advertising dollars. They're just buying them like cattle, basically. And you can say, well, that's what's always been going on. But, like, yeah, to some extent, but not to this extent.
At least there was pretense.
At least pretense. At least there was, like, some safeguards. There's nothing now. It's just like you can leave whenever you want, no penalty whatsoever. Other teams can just, like, call you whenever and just say, like, hey, here's $1 million. Like, it's just – it's like even NFL free agency has rules. College football doesn't have any rules. None. They have no rules. And I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to go on a tangent about Bo Nix, but the fact that he's already got like somebody lined up, just like Charlie Brewer had Utah lined up before Baylor played their last snap last year, I'm pretty sure. I think that sucks. I think that really sucks, but, good luck to him.
Yeah. Number 2, Dylan Gabriel from UCF. This one surprised me a lot. I would not be surprised to see him wind up at Oklahoma with Jeff Lebby if Caleb Williams leaves. But he's one who's probably going to wait in the weeds unless he's got a plan like Bo Nix. But this is a guy who, before he broke his collarbone, was one of the more exciting quarterbacks in the country. And I would wonder if he's watching Oklahoma and Jeff Lebby a little bit.
Yeah, I would think so. Good player, got to stay healthy. That's the big deal there. But yeah, I mean, Jeff Lebby would make sense. If that quarterback room's not too crowded.
They got a commitment, Oklahoma, from Evers. Today, I think today or last night. Yeah.
And number 1, Spencer Rattler. Got to go to the right situation. A coach who can maybe pull off the layer of whatever it is with Spencer that's keeping him from hitting his full potential. But that's the big thing but Spencer Rattler's the most talented guy that's in this portal, and we'll see where he goes. But more of Spencer Rattler is not necessarily going to be on the coach. It's going to be on Spencer Rattler to take those personal growth steps himself, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he's very talented. I think he's far from perfect. Arm's great and all that, but there's a lot of other things that, obviously needs some work. He'll be great for whoever he goes to. I mean, he'll be better than probably who they had. But yeah, I think he's still got a lot of proving to do. And I just, he's just a guy where it's all been about the NFL pretty much the entire time he's been in college football. It seems like, at least. So yeah, good luck to Spencer.
Does he get to take those cars with him?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know how all that works.
I don't know. That'll be a story that like Max Olson or Bruce Feldman or
you think that
Ross Dellinger.
Quinn Ewers would be like a big warning sign to companies as far as like your NIL money goes. I mean, was that worth it for whatever Ohio State business forked over? Whatever they end up. I still haven't gotten a clear answer on what exactly he made.
And we still don't know if he's going to be the starter at Texas or not. He's still going to win that job.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, and
stay healthy.
For some businesses, this first year of NIL has been a wake-up call and probably a learning lesson in some ways.
Has to be something in that contract.
Yeah,
you would hope.
And speaking of college football has to do something about this. I mean, you can't stop paying players at this point. You can't stop coaching changes at certain times. But between the carousel and the transfer portal, I don't like the direction it's going. I really don't.
And someone asked me the other day, we're well past time, why don't you guys get the commitments on like you used to? Because we don't know, with all due respect to any of them, we don't know where it's going to end up. We used to all of the time. We got to go.
But like certain guys, I mean, we interviewed a guy and a month later he's committed to Oklahoma. So it's just like at some point you just go, this is stupid to be talking to these kids, and you do an interview and the very last question is like, so are you shutting it down? No, I'm still open to every school. Then why the hell are we talking to you? Honestly, I mean, really.
All right, we got to go. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak. Lots to get to tomorrow. In fact, we will. Including Rhett Lashley, the new head coach at SMU. He'll be one of our guests tomorrow. For Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims, thanks to you, all of you. Calls, viewers, listeners throughout the day. And thank you to our great sponsors for allowing us to be here as we continue to grow. Went over 16,000 subscribers over the weekend on the YouTube channel. David Smoak, good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.